Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Master Show Live. How are all of you? It is Sunday, just a little after 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we welcome you. Hope you're having a terrific weekend. We've had a glorious weekend here with family and a very busy weekend. We were off yesterday, as rare as that is, for some family time and to catch up with some other things we needed to catch up with in life. Since we do this series and I balance it with my professional work as a television and radio presenter and personality, host, journalist, actor, writer, producer, stage MC, voiceover artist. This is the Jim Master Show live entertainment lifestyle talk show series that we created almost a year ago now, with over 300 episodes live. Yes, live. Just about 7 days a week at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And sometimes we do some additional shows earlier in the day on the weekend. Sometimes we've done 2 shows a day. When we have international guests who are in later time zones, we'll adjust our show to accommodate them and people who might want to watch in Ireland or England or Spain or Greece or wherever they're located. Wherever you're located, you are welcome to our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. We have a lot of fun here. We always learn something. We're always educated, entertained. There's lots of light, love, and levity. Or as I coined accidentally in the summertime, but everybody says it wasn't an accident. It was a perfect slip of the tongue. I said love and levity a little too fast, and all of a sudden out came lovity. And all the viewers fell in love with that word. The guests love the word. Everybody loves that word. So now the show is all about levity, which is kind of cool. We've certainly needed a lot of that the last many months, wouldn't you say? The world needs a little more levity. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're in good health and good spirits. If you're not, this is the place to be perked up, to learn something new, and to have a good time with us. So we welcome everybody in style. This, again, is our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series, sort of bringing back the old school talk show style of the past, you know, where they had warm, welcoming conversations, freestyle, and really no scripted questions or any of that. Just a good conversation with amazing guests, amazing Levity viewers watching all around the world and from our Levity squad. And we have entertainment and all kinds of surprises during the course of the shows as well. And we're bringing back the lost art of conversation, yet with a modern twist and a modern vibe as well. So that is sort of what we're all about. And then some here on the show. We toast all of you in style as well. Nice to have everybody here. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't want to spill this. This thing is filled to the brim. That's refreshing. Looks like a very expensive $11 martini, doesn't it? It's not. It's just ginger ale. We just finished our Sunday dinner, and we are topping it off with a little ginger ale for some sweetness. How is everybody? We've got an amazing guest, and also learned in doing our conversation before going live on the air that he and I know a lot of the same people. We've worked in the same industries. We're both from the same part of the planet, New York and Long Island, New York. His brother is a very well-known television news broadcaster and journalist, Mike TAIBBI from NBC News, and so much more. Joining us is Stephen G. TAIBBI, who is a brilliant author and was in production and so much more. We have so many things to talk to him about, but he's got this book, which is riveting. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute as well. But let's welcome everybody here on the show. It's nice to have you guys here. John G says hello. John, welcome. Good to have you here. Anybody that is watching on our YouTube channel, we would love it if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. You can binge watch our show as well. We have over 300 episodes of the Jim Master Show live entertainment lifestyle talk show series. Mary Bishop is here. Hello, Jim and Levity friends. She is in Florida. And greetings from John G. Good to see you, John. Merlin in Canada says, hi, Jim and all Levities. Nice to see you here as well, Merlin. And let's see, Anne is here as well. A very good evening, Sunday evening, Jim and Levity friends. Anne is in the Jacksonville area of Florida, USA. Levity friends, hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Absolutely. Merlin is welcoming Stephen to the Hall of Levities. You are now a Levity. I told him about Levity Hall and what it's all about, and he he says, bring it on. He loves the idea. And Diana is here. Good evening, everyone. Good to have you with us, Diana. Nice to have you here, and love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all kinds of episodes. Tomorrow, Judy Tenuta. She is amazing. She's our guest tomorrow. She is the legendary Hollywood comedian. It's going to be amazing. She's here tomorrow. You've seen her on Johnny Carson. She's had HBO specials and so much more. She's going to be live from Hollywood tomorrow. That's Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern, that is, 7 p.m., which is our regular time. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, Eastern Daylight Time. Did you put your clocks ahead? We sort of lost that hour, but we gained it again in the fall. Clocks ahead, at least here, we do the clocks ahead. Not everybody around the world does that, and we do have an international audience. Good to see you, Dina. And Crystal Nolan is here. Hi, Jim and everyone. Happy Sunday. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Looking forward to an exciting show with inspiring conversation and levity. Absolutely. Crystal is watching in Connecticut from South Africa. Hello, Jim and Levity family. You guys are early. We don't have daylight savings. Now, I know in South Africa, you don't do it. We do it. We get that extra hour of daylight here, which is really, really terrific. And so that is a thing, a levity kind of mega dittos. Yes, absolutely. It's a levity thing here on the show. Happened by accident and then took off from there. We welcome everybody, and good comments coming in from everybody. Amy, who's a wonderful poet. Hello all from Amy. Yes, thank you very much. Nice to have you here. Kathleen. Hi, Jim. We hope you had a good weekend. She's in New York City. Hi, everyone. Nursing a sore back. Well, hope you're better. Wow. You take care, my friend, Kathleen. Kathleen works for the New York Mets. Good stuff. Good stuff. John is watching us on the big screen on Roku. Cool. You're watching us on Roku. That's really cool. I didn't even realize you can get us on Roku. The Jim Master Show Live is everywhere. Hello, Jim and Levities. Welcome. Author Stephen to the show, ready for Levity to begin. Christine Clifton is watching in North Carolina. And Deanna is watching in Ohio. Wonderful Ohio. I was on a TV shoot about a year ago in, Cleveland and Columbus and all around. Haven't been to Cincinnati yet. Got to get myself to Cincinnati. And Willie in Holland in the Netherlands is here. I am also here, she says. She's watching in Holland. John G says he's a native New Yorker as well. And also he was born on Long Island as well. Good to have you here. Everybody watching all around the world, our very special guest, again, Stephen G. TAIBBI. Now, if you've heard the name Mike TAIBBI, they are brothers. Both obviously very accomplished gentlemen. Stephen has this amazing story and this amazing book. Let me tell you first a little bit about his background, and we'll chat about it. For more than 25 years, producer, director of photography for Stephen G. TAIBBI Productions, a television production company, and contributing editor at Videography magazine for 10 years. He also wrote articles for multiple magazines. He's written television scripts, TV and radio commercials. He was the lyricist for a songwriting team. He went on to be the vice president of Transplants Speakers International, now a public speaker and photographer, and so much more. And let me tell you a little about the amazing book that he penned that we're so honored to have an opportunity to share with you. It really is, this is something you're definitely going to want to pick up. Grateful Guilt, Living in the Shadow of My Heart. He had surgery for the first time on the day he drew his first breath. Since that day in April 1953, he's had many more operations, including 2 heart transplants. A prolific writer, again, he published his memoir in 2019 after a career that did include those 25 years as a producer, director of photography, and so much more. We mentioned that. It's really amazing when you hear his story, too, as well. The Transplant Speakers International is the organization, again, dedicated to improving the quality of life for transplant candidates, recipients, and their families, and families of organ and tissue donors as well. He shared his remarkable healthcare journey, including his earliest memories of being a terrified 5-year-old patient and the strategies he uses as an adult to cope with pain and discomfort. Spoiler alert, gratitude plays a leading role. He has offered insightful advice to both patients and providers who want to improve the patient experience. The takeaway: healing a patient who has suffered from illness or injury is not the doctor's job. The physician simply promotes healing, but the patient must fully be invested in his or her own recovery for true healing to occur. We're going to welcome him again live and direct from Long Island, New York, Stephen G. TAIBBI. Steve, thanks for joining us here on the show. It's a real honor and a pleasure to have you here, my friend.
Thank you, Jim. It's my pleasure. I have to say right off the bat, I spelled my own name wrong.
You did.
How hysterical is that?
You are Smith.
Yeah. No, it's TAIBBI.
Oh, you did your own?
I did. Yeah. When you asked to come in, no, there's my own. Okay,
there you go.
Oh, so I didn't do it. Okay. Okay. That's the correct spelling, folks.
So how are you? You're there on Long Island in New York, of course, and we say on the island, not in the island, because
right.
It's detached from the mainland. So you do have to be.
There are people who don't think this is an island, even though it's surrounded by water.
No, and they think it's part of New York City, and it isn't. It's its own entity. It has its own counties and its own government and everything, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So you and I are both Long Island born and raised originally, and amazing career. Tell us a little bit early on. You and I were talking about both being sort of old school in our ways of thinking, oftentimes. You were very aware of certain things about life at an early age. I think you were saying it's like 6 years old, right?
Yeah, well, I knew that my life was in danger. I had when I was a child, I had this deformity called ASD, atrial septum defect, and back then that was the heart transplants of its day. That was a huge thing, and it meant ASD is atrial septum defect, and it means that there used to be called a hole in the heart.
Oh, yeah. We had a neighbor, Patty Longo, actually, and she had that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So back then that was open heart surgery. Today they do it with a catheter, but back then that was a big thing. And when I went for my first operation when I was 5, they thought I only had one hole. And when they got in there, they found that I had 2 and a vein was plumb backwards. And at that time, the survival rate for that operation was 50%. So
yes.
Then they told,
I remember, right? Patty, I remember there were a couple of things that were vivid. She would have episodes sometimes where you wouldn't see her for a while, and then her lips sometimes would be sort of purplish or blue a little bit.
Well, yeah.
And she passed, I believe, in her, I think she passed in her 30s.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Like you said, the survival rate is not what you, right?
No, but not back then, not in 58. Then I went back. Then they sent me home because they didn't think I was strong enough to survive a double repair. And they sent me home for a year, hoping I'd get strong enough. And at that time, I mean, I knew I was in trouble when I was 5. Nobody told me, but yeah. And then when I was 6, my parents in their subtlety had a priest give me last rites. So, I'm a Roman Catholic. I'm a Roman Catholic Italian. I'm not going to know what last rites are, even at the age of 6. And so I kind of knew. But at that point, no one had ever lived through 2. I was the first. So nobody expected me to live through that operation. And then, and so that started the whole thing, and then I was told I would not live to be 10. My parents were told that. Then when I became older, as about 15, 14, a doctor was really straight with me. He said, "You're not going to get out of you may not get out of your teens." And I almost didn't. I had a heart incident on my 17th birthday, and I saw the light, that whole thing. And and then they told me that I wouldn't get out of my 20s. And I didn't expect me to survive that. And then they told me I wouldn't get out of my 20s. And then when I was 34, they told me I had beaten everything. And then I caught a virus that killed my heart.
Wow. And this is all at a relatively early age in your life. So how were you able to work through that and continue going forward, go to school? And, I'm sure there were times where you had to pause a little bit here and there, but it must have made you really resilient and determined and want to make your mark, as you have so beautifully.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I wanted to make my mark, but I also wasn't going to give in. I never thought that I'd live past my 30s. My whole life, I never thought I'd live past my 30s. I went to my 40th school reunion, and kids were going, "You're alive!" It's like,
you're right. They thought you're right.
I'm saying kids. It was our 40th reunion, but I just never stopped fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. And the support and love of family, right? To be able to
My parents
get you through.
My parents did some unique things for me. They wouldn't allow me to act like I was sick. They wouldn't treat me like I was sick. So
Right.
I mean, I was sick a lot, but they wouldn't allow me to think I was heart sick, and I wouldn't
Right.
let me think I was deathly sick. And
Right.
I picked up on that theme, and I ran with it.
And so what did you do? How did you run with it? What were some of the things that you were able to do?
Well, I call it in my book. I started chasing life with a hammer, and I just wanted to have my life my way. Jimi Hendrix said something when I was a kid that really, really made me pay attention. He said, "I'm the one that's got to die when it's time for me to die. So let me live my life the way I want to." And I said to myself, "Right on, Jimmy." And that's what I did. And so I knew I never could work for anybody. I don't have the temperament for that because when I'm young, when I went back to school after 6, and I know I had almost died, it was really a very horrific time. And no, teachers are trying to tell you to do things, and anybody who was in a position of power over me, I wouldn't listen to them because I thought, you don't know what I know. You don't know what it's like to almost die. You don't know what it's like to watch the kids next to you and across from you go to surgeries and never come back. You have no idea. And so I wouldn't listen to them. That's why I was always self-employed, because I just had to have my own thing, my own way.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I just want to show you some of the famous levity that we talk about here on the show that's coming through. Wow. What a burden to live with the doctor's diagnosis not giving you hope. Amazing story from Juanita watching in South Africa and in Florida, Jacksonville area. Welcome, Stephen. Looking forward to an exciting evening. Willie, who's watching in Holland, says, welcome, Stephen, to the show of Gym Masters. Kathleen in New York City. Hi, Stephen, and welcome. And Juanita also welcomes you to the show. Looking forward to hearing about the book. Mary in Florida, welcome, Stephen, as well. Crystal in Connecticut. Hi, Stephen. Welcome to Levity Hall. Everybody welcoming everybody. And again,
I appreciate that, everybody.
Yeah, Christine. Hello, Jim and Levities. Welcome you, Stephen, to the show. Ready for the Levity to begin, which is really important. And yeah, it sounds like you were surrounded within the family by a lot of levity that helped you get through. What were some of the interests in terms of production and directing and broadcast and all? Because like I mentioned earlier in the top, your brother is a highly regarded journalist, Mike TAIBBI, and NBC News and so much more, illustrious career. Did he spark your interest in getting into media and production at all, or was it something you always knew you wanted to do, Stephen?
No, when I was a kid in the Cub Scouts, one of my
did that too.
one of my
66.
One of my neighbors, his father was a singer for the Mitch Miller Singers.
Oh wow!
And they lived around the block from us. I went to school with him, and one day we got to go as a troop to see the rehearsal of the Easter show. And I'm what are you in Boy Scouts? You're like 8 years old, something like that. And I saw I saw the camera on the crane. I saw all these beautiful dancing girls. I saw the set. I saw the fake perspective, and it just knocked me over. And that's when I knew I wanted to be in television.
Yeah, I know. So tell us a little bit about the early entree into the career of producing and directing and the incredible career that you've had. What was the early entree? I know you mentioned a prolific involvement with cable television in the early years of its infancy.
Yes. Well, I started at Quinnipiac College. I had a radio show. And then which I really thought I wanted to do radio. I think I want to do radio now too. But then I went to New York Tech in Long Island in Westbury, and I graduated with my communications degree. But I was doing internships before that. I was working at studios. First, I was working at Cablevision when they were brand new. And then I was working with D. Seversky Production Studios on New York Tech's property. And that's where I, first got my my training, really. I work with Tom Sykota, one of the best one of the best lighting directors that were back then, and he used to do the lighting for D. Seversky, and he understood that I wanted to do lighting before I did, and he took me under his wing. And it's because of him that I became a lighting director, sincerely. And he told me, he just taught me so much. It was unbelievable. He was a very generous man. And that's what got me on my way with that. I started with the internships. I started my career 2 weeks before I graduated. Where I worked, my first client was AT&T. AT&T at the time was the largest studio network in the world. They had 70 studios. And this was before they were broken up. And I started with AT&T, and then I went to Merrill Lynch, and then next thing you know, I'm back shooting when cable companies were just forming. They were doing the brand new cable shows because HBO and all that was brand new. That's when I started that, and there was a group of us that started the. People don't realize that cable television basically started in New York, and there was this one group of us. We just kept getting hired because we could do it, and we had done it. And producers tend to hire people who've done stuff, so we just kept getting hired over and over again to do these cable shows. And at one time, I was doing the number 1, 2, and 3 cable shows in the country, and it was really a very exciting time.
That's amazing. Absolutely. And did you get a chance over the years at all to work with Mike, with your brother?
That's really funny. He had to do a news thing. I forget for what. And he needed somebody who worked at home and had an office in their house. So he shot at my house using my office, which was a mess. And he came walking up my street, which is on a steep hill. So he could do the dramatic shot of he's talking, but he's out of camera range. And as he's walking up the hill, he starts to pop up. Yeah. So that's the only. Oh, and one time I went with him on a job on the Cape for him, a news show, and they had to fly the film back. That was when it was film, and they had to fly the film back. And I took a Coast Guard helicopter to deliver the film, but that was the only times we didn't really cross paths that way because I was in production and he was in news.
He was in news, right? Exactly. We're talking about Mike TAIBBI. So tell us about early on some of the other projects that you've had an opportunity to be a part of as a producer, director, and so much more over the years, because you created your own production company out of all of this, right?
Yeah. I was a freelancer, and you were doing whatever job came available for you. So
yes,
usually I was a DP, a director of photography. That's what I was mostly known for. But I did my own jobs where I was the director and the producer. Those were mostly for corporate clients or for commercials. Did a lot of local commercials. Mm-hmm. And I really liked I liked directing and writing. I did all those things. If it was my own production, I was writing, producing, and directing it. If it was for somebody else, I was usually producing and the DP. A lot of times I was hired just as a director. It depended on what the job was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it was so much. I never knew what the next job was going to be. It was so much fun. And some of the jobs were, the kind of jobs you wanted to slit your throat. They were so boring.
Just sitting there, just waiting and waiting. And,
oh my God. I did a job for IBM where they were literally putting the manual for a copier into videotape. Mm. And there was basically somebody reading a repair manual for an IBM copier. Everybody was just wanting to kill themselves. It was the most boring job I ever did. There was one other, but it was just the same kind of thing. But other jobs, were just so exciting. There was so much money involved, and there were so many toys to play with. And that's what the money really means, is that it's a big production. Then, when I get to order 2 tractor trailers worth of stuff, and
and jibs, and
jibs,
maybe
cranes.
Even a helicopter. Now it's a drone.
Right. Now it's a drone. I used to love doing helicopter work. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got a lot of helicopter work because I was a pilot.
Yes, and you had an opportunity to work with another broadcast legend, Hugh Downs, who people know from ABC News and lots of other locations, but ABC News most notably, and the original co-host with Barbara Walters of 2020 on ABC, and of course the Today Show on NBC, and so much more. Tell us about getting a chance to work with the one and only Hugh Downs, who just passed not that long ago.
Yeah, like 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
First of all, he was like one of the gentlemen of the
yeah.
business.
Real broadcaster. Yeah.
Oh, what a nice man. A lot of these people aren't necessarily so nice,
There's a
but
few, yeah.
Hugh Downs was really something else. My first professional job was as an intern working for D. Seversky, but they were going to pay me for this because it was a production for PBS called Broken Treaty at Battle Mountain. And Hugh was the narrator, and he did studio scenes in it. And we shot the studio scenes in this D. Seversky studio. Tom did the lighting. I assisted in the lighting, and they paid me for that. And I met Hugh Downs that one day. I'm a kid in college. We meet that one day. Maybe 10 years later, I meet him at an airport where I have my glider, and turns out he's friends with my instructor, and he used to borrow her glider. And one day he shows up, and I walked over to him. I said, "Mr. Downs, I don't know if you remember me, but you and I worked on Broken." And he remembered me. He remembered my name. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I would see him at the airport all the time.
Yeah. Who are some other people you had an opportunity to pass across with that really, you revered them, or they were just incredible to work with and team up with on projects?
My favorite person of all time was Gene Rayburn.
Oh, Match Game. Dun 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 dun. Wasn't he something else?
He was amazing.
He used to do a show. It was Good Day Saturday, I believe, or it was an afternoon show he did on Saturdays in New York on Channel 5, WNEW, when it was NEW. Now it's NYW, but before it was owned by Fox Network, it was Metro Media. You probably remember.
Yeah, sure.
He did this afternoon variety talk show style cooking segments and humor and guests, and Gene Rayburn, and that was post the Match Game, hosting Match Game all those years on CBS. What was it like working with him? He's somebody I would have liked to have met.
I met him on a commercial. I forget which one. It was the Star or the New York Post. Remember the Star commercials?
Yeah.
This weekend, I did almost all of those.
Oh, This Week in the Star.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I forget what the commercial was, but the Match Game was on at that point.
Yeah.
And the producers are so uptight that Gene Rayburn is there, as producers always are. It's amazing how starstruck producers can be. And so we're in the hallway, and the two producers go, Stephen, we want you to meet Gene Rayburn. He's our talent today. And he goes, and I shake his hand, and as I'm shaking his hand, it was the other show with the guy who was always kissing everybody.
Family Feud, Richard Dawson.
Yeah, Family Feud, Richard Dawson. Right.
Dawson, yeah.
So I go, Gene Rayburn. I'm hanging onto his hand. I'm going, Gene Rayburn. I love Family Feud. And the producers' jaws just dropped, right? They were so angry. But Gene just cracked up. He just started laughing.
He had a good sense of humor, yeah.
The whole night, he spent it with me. He didn't spend it with the producers. The producers hated me for it. I eventually got fired for that. And,
really?
Yeah, really. And
maybe you could have just been teasing Gene to have fun, because he
he decided to have dinner with me. He didn't sit with them. He and I sat alone talking about sailing. Yeah. So he wanted to be with somebody who treated him like a person. He didn't want to be a star.
Right. No, he was a regular guy. He could design that long, thin microphone too, that he used on
an ECM 50 on a stalk.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yes. I think when he passed a few years back, he was living with his daughter on Cape Cod, if I remember.
Oh, was it?
But he hosted a lot of shows over the years, those Goodson Todman productions.
Yes.
But Match Game really was the one that he just had a wonderful rapport with Brett Summers and Charles Nelson Riley. Richard Dawson was one of the panelists before Family Feud, Fannie Flagg, and all Johnny Olson as the announcer. Yeah, who of course was the announcer people knew for years on The Price is Right. Come on down. The original was Johnny Olson. So that was cool. I mean,
he was my favorite because he was just the best person. All he wanted to be was a person. He didn't want to be a star. He just wanted to be a nice guy, and he was a nice guy, and he was just tremendous.
Yeah, and that sometimes is rare in the industries. There's
And
a
Phyllis
couple.
Diller was the other one who
Yeah,
I work with Phyllis so often that
I
we got on a
I
first
miss
name
her.
basis.
She was amazing.
She was
Phyllis Stiller.
she was the greatest. I'd walk into a studio if I didn't see her first. I'd hear "Hi, Steve," and it would be Phil's, and it's
That
really
laugh of hers.
and she was hysterical. She might
Yeah,
be the funniest person
yeah.
I ever met.
I think absolutely, and the ability to be able to bang the jokes, bang bang
Man,
bang
she
bang
she
bang
was smart.
bang. Rodney Dangerfield, another one from Long Island
Yes.
originally.
Oh,
Uh,
was he?
yeah, he was from Long Island. He was from New York,
Oh,
Long Island. Rodney Dangerfield, and another one had the ability to bang with the jokes, bang 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 bang, bang. Kind of like Don Rickles too, who would observe and then come up with different things. But Phyllis Stiller, just absolutely, she would be another one I would like to have met. Still
Phyllis
with
was
us.
she was a doll,
and,
and
and
she had no
friendly.
pretensions. She was so
Yeah.
nice.
I would say for me, a couple of people that met that expectation are Carol Burnett, who I had an opportunity to chat with and meet and speak with. No pretension at all. Warm, funny, welcoming, no ego, and just real. And the other person that matched that, who I had an opportunity to meet and chat with as well, was Florence Henderson. She
Yes,
also was, if anybody that knows Florence Henderson is Carol Brady on the Brady Bunch or anything else she's ever done, which is a lot, she was as warm and wonderful and approachable and witty and funny and saucy too, as much as she was, Carol Brady on the Brady Bunch. She was just very, very warm and very, witty and funny. And yeah, she was somebody that I would say when you met her, she didn't have that air or the ego. Or she told me when I saw her last, which is about 4 months before she passed, she said that she used to write back to every single fan who ever wrote. You know how long that takes?
sure.
Personally write back to them, which is amazing. You know who else is like that as far as just being approachable and warm and funny and extremely witty? Is Lucy Arnaz, who's also
Yes, I work with her. She was one of
Lucy.
she's my other favorite.
She's actually funnier
She's
in an
hysterical.
automatic way than Lucille Ball. And Lucille Ball said that, and Lucy Arnaz will say, and everybody will say it because she has the ability to rapid fire observe life and just quick wittedly respond to it. Where Lucille Ball was a brilliant actress and could play funny,
Right.
but
But didn't
wasn't
know funny.
naturally funny, right? Desi Arnaz
Right.
was naturally funny, they said. Desi was the one that was actually naturally funny. Lucy was the trained actress who could brilliantly play funny, but if you were to catch her like off screen, wasn't necessarily one that was going to be coming up with the jokes and all that. Where Lucy Arnaz, her daughter, is very funny.
I heard her say that they were talking about what it must have been like to grow up with a comedic genius like her mother. And she goes, my mother wasn't funny. She goes, she could act funny. She knew how to fall. She could act funny, but she never knew why it was funny. She's a funny person was my father. And she said he was the genius as far as the comedy was concerned. And I'm telling you, that girl that girl is Lucy Arnaz is a fast-witted girl.
Yeah.
And she's very pretty and she's very nice and she's no pretension. She was also one of my favorite people.
You know who also I still have him on the list of people, and there was actually a very brief moment where I almost got a chance to interview him for a public television special, but it was his 90th birthday and he got called away because Disneyland did a whole celebration for him, and he's still on my list. I know time is of the essence, but Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
Just Dick Van Dyke, just one of those people, universal, warm and funny. And again, all of that way of just approachable and real and funny and, the guy next door type thing, no airs about him and just really, a terrific person.
And he's right. If you want to stay alive, keep moving.
You want to stay alive?
He has that book.
Moving. Yes.
If you want to stay alive, keep moving. Dick Van Dyke is right about that.
And of course, remember what Carl Reiner would always say every morning when he woke up, he would read the obituary page. And if he wasn't in it, he'd have breakfast.
Okay.
Do you remember Toady Fields? She was funny too.
Sure. She was really good.
She was funny. Yeah. See, so you got a chance to work with lots of great folks.
You remember when Nixon wrote his book, The Nixon Memoirs?
Sure.
And remember, he that book came out, and it was then on Charles Kuralt, and it was on 60 Minutes.
Yes.
Right? That was done by a production company.
Oh, Charles Kuralt was another. Yeah.
I didn't meet him, but
Brilliant.
I was one of the cameramen on that.
Oh, were you really?
So I met Nixon.
You did?
Yes, and I got to tell you,
what was that like?
He's dry as toast. He was, I should say.
Yeah.
But he was very nice. But you know that idea that somebody can command a room just by being in it?
Yeah.
Personal power. Yeah. Right.
He had that.
Nixon, he had that in spades. When he came in the room, he owned the room. I've never seen anybody own a room like Nixon did. Yeah. And after the shoot was over, I got an autographed book from him that said, I still have it, obviously. It says, it says, to Stephen TAIBBI from Richard M. Nixon with deepest appreciation. And it's one of my favorite things that I have from my television career.
Yeah. You know? That's amazing. Wow. You know who I would say was also very approachable and warm and had an opportunity to have conversations with was Regis Philbin too. Regis. He was just very funny.
I worked with his wife. Remember she had that
Joy.
Show?
Joy.
Yeah, Joy. I did that show.
I always thought that, and a lot of people thought that when Kathy Lee left, and I had an opportunity to actually work on a couple of projects with Kathy Lee and Frank Gifford, charitable projects. Kathy Lee was very nice and warm and approachable, and much more quieter than on television, much more, subdued and very deep person and warm person, loving person. But Regis and Joy, I think, after Kathy left, would have been really good together. People wanted Joy to be the co-host with Regis Philbin, because when Joy would fill in for Kathy Lee Gifford, just the razzing back and forth between Joy and Regis, like Regis, I saved the network. I'm the man that does it all. And then she would set him straight and just bring him back down. And it was such a great yin and yang when Joy and Regis were together. It was hilarious, but she didn't want to, do that, because she figured I think it was Regis's world and Regis's thing. But she did the cable show. Yes. And he did a cable show too. Was that on Lifetime?
I don't remember, but I do remember making an infomercial with Kathy Lee.
Did you?
Yes, and
I've hosted a lot of those.
And I forget who it was with her, but the other person who was on with her brought her husband, who was one of the other nicest people I ever met, and that was Bruce Jenner.
Oh yes, yeah.
And Bruce Jenner walked up to us, walked up to every single crew member as if we didn't know who he was, and stuck his hand out and said, "Hi, my name is Bruce Jenner. What's yours?" And he introduced himself to every single member of the crew, which I always took it. And then he stood around and talked to us like he was just another guy.
You know who, we're getting a little local here with New York, but a real class act and very warm and polished, professional, real broadcaster, but very warm and affable and approachable. Bill Butel on Channel 7, Eyewitness News. He was a class act.
I met him once or twice through my brother.
Very professional.
Yes.
Chuck Scarborough, another one. And Rollin Smith, Channel 2.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
I always wanted to meet Jim Jensen. I didn't get a chance to meet Jim Jensen, but he was also another, again, we're talking about all these terrific broadcasters. And so are you still working within the production industry, or did you retire? Tell us a little bit about some of that.
I retired when I had my first heart transplant.
That was
just too much stress in that business.
Yeah. That's right. If you don't have the heart replaced, you're living on Tums.
Yeah, no, it was just I was forced into retirement,
Are you a perfectionist?
Not really. Wait.
I like that. Yep. Everybody.
It depends.
Yeah, right.
If I'm doing something that I'm really into, yes.
Right.
I pick my perfectionism.
Right.
If I
get that.
Whenever I did a job for somebody, I was a perfectionist.
Yes.
Around the house, in my house, I'm a slob. So I guess I take days off.
But the thing is, you probably know that around the house, things are a little looser because you spend all that energy, have spent all that energy making sure everything was the way it needed to be for the paying customer or for the hired situation. Plus, knowing that more than likely, if you're going to tackle that project at home, like reorganizing the closet, you're probably not going to just throw everything in there and close the door. When you decide you want to organize it, you're probably going to open the door, take everything out and reorganize it and make it a big project. And so you procrastinate a little bit, knowing that once you get in there, you're going to be totally focused on
If I'm going to paint a room, for example, I have to get up the courage to paint the room because I'm going to be such a nut about it.
Right.
Because I'm going to do everything perfectly. I'm going to take down all the molding. I'm going to take down all the light switches. I'm going to take down.
Is this a Long Island thing or something?
I don't know.
In the water on the island?
I don't know.
I get that.
my carpenter, when he comes to my house, he sees when I painted, he goes, I could never paint like that. I couldn't make a living doing it the way you do it. But
when I was a
perfectly,
kid, when I was a kid, when we would go on family vacations, we would go up to Connecticut and Massachusetts, New England to visit for a whole month in August. Our family in Connecticut and Massachusetts, because I mentioned, to you that my mother's the youngest of 16, so big family, and it would take like a month to see everybody. So we would come up from the island and drive up north to New England, and or if we went to Walt Disney World or whatever the vacation was, I would, as a kid, clean my room almost perfectly, and everything was vacuumed and neat and orderly and put away and just looked really, good housekeeping type of room for like a 12-year-old kid. In case somebody broke into the house, they would know that, the room was neat and clean, and in case somebody saw the room.
That's really funny.
At an early age.
Oh, that's really funny.
That's like the people who clean their house before they have the house cleaning people come over.
So you've met my wife.
Cleans the house
wife.
Before
my
the
wife.
people
My
come
wife
over.
Is crazy that way. She's watching the show right now. So,
what's her first name?
Just Rose.
Rose. Hi.
So just get ready to be reading my obituary soon.
So she'll clean the house before the house cleaning people come, right?
I remember one day I had a friend of mine. They
can't see it dirty. They could tell the neighbors.
I had a friend of mine coming over with her daughter. Her daughter was about 15 at the time, 14, and I had told my friend that our house cleaner was coming over that day, and but they had to cancel. So my friend walks into the house and she goes, "So this is what a house looks like after it's been cleaned by a professional." I went, "No, they didn't show up today." I thought the daughter was going to faint.
They're like, "What do you need the house cleaner for? The place looks great."
It's pretty funny,
isn't that? So let's talk about some of these cool things that you're just sharing with us. I love this conversation. And how did the idea of the book come along? And the title of the book too is definitely, and I know you have the book there with you as well, but Grateful Guilt, Living in the Shadow of My Heart. Tell us about the book and the title and the inspiration. When did you say, I really want to write a book? I want to write this sort of, and you would describe it as a memoir?
In a way, it's not really a memoir because it's really not about me as me.
Right.
It's about me as a patient.
Yes.
And me as getting through whatever was tough in life, including bullies. So that's what it is for me. I wrote the book because so many people, when I tell them the strategies I use and how I'm still not dead, which is my battle cry, I'm still not dead. They would say, you have to write a book. People need to know what you're saying. And that was the main reason why I wrote it. Grateful Guilt is a program that I did at Transplant Speakers International, because recipient guilt for receiving an organ, and most times it means, especially a heart or lungs, it means that somebody else had to pass. We have tremendous guilt. And then we started doing a program at Transplant Speakers called Grateful Guilt, which my wife named, because we're grateful, but we're guilty. And then that seemed like a good name for the book. And then Living in the Shadow of My Heart was the original name of the book.
The original name. Where does the guilt, because that might be surprising to some folks who haven't had obviously these experiences or haven't lived through a situation where they have a loved one or a friend who's been through this type of situation. The guilt, where does the guilt, the grateful is understandable, but where does the guilt come from being the recipient?
Okay, you're sitting at home. If you're in New York, you're going to wait over a year for a heart. It used to be a year. Now it's over a year.
Yeah.
New York, by the way, is the worst state in the nation for transplantation.
Is
As
it
far
really?
as we have the lowest number of donors in the nation. We're number 50 out of 50.
Wow.
If you're ashamed of that, New York, good, you should be. So
Especially with the amount of people and everything. Yeah.
yeah, considering how many people are here, we're the lowest. That's really surprising to me. But if you're sick, deadly sick with organ that's failing, and when that organ does fail, it means you're gone. You're sitting in your house all day long, and the one thing I would not do is pray for an organ. The one thing I would do is pray thy will be done. Because if I'm supposed to die, I'll die. If I'm not supposed to, I won't. But I'm not going to pray that somebody dies so that I can be saved. That's just not the right way to do it. So you're sitting at home all day long by yourself, watching horrible TV. There's nothing on during the day. And all you can do is think. And you're thinking about, who is this person going to be if I get it? They're not going to know that they're dying. I know I'm dying. They don't know they're about to. It's going to be a shock to them. I mean, they're going to have a trauma. It has to be a trauma for the organs to be viable. And so they're going to be surprised by it. They don't know that that's the last day they're putting on their socks or kissing their spouse or the children or their parents goodbye. They don't know anything. And then bam, they're not here anymore. And meantime, I'm the one who's sick. And I kept saying, I say this in the book, I would wish that I could find out who my donor was going to be and get in the way of the hit they're going to take. But that's not the way things work. And so you get this organ and you're grateful that you got it, but somebody else. Now, all the platitudes that everybody gives you, they didn't die for you. They were going to die anyway. All that stuff, those are platitudes. They don't really help very much. You still feel guilty. I felt horrible guilt for the first, I'd say, 10, 12 years. So that's where the title and all that came from. And the idea of writing the book came because everybody told me the way you did these things to make yourself stay alive is something that you should share with people. And so that's what I did.
So how do you work through the guilt? How do you remove it or lessen it, or is it never fully gone?
It took a long time to finally let it, time heals all wounds kind of thing. That's really kind of what happened. I still feel guilty to a degree, but nothing like in the beginning. When I first started working with transplant speakers, which was right after my first transplant, I became the vice president of that. So we trained over 8,000 people, and I probably trained several thousand. And you meet all these recipients and they all have this guilt, and nobody was doing anything about it until we made up a program for it. We were the first organization to recognize that there was transplant guilt. And then we spread that around the country. Now, I've heard a lot of other people try to take credit for it, but it was Transplant Speakers International that did it. And I just want to get that out there for all the people who are claiming credit when it's not deserved, because I mean, you would say something, I would say something to a doctor, I would say something to a organ procurement organization person or anybody, and they'd say those platitudes to you. Well, they didn't die for you. They were going to die anyway, and they're not helping you at all. And they're basically telling you to shut up. Whereas if a woman who lost her breast to cancer was saying she's mourning the loss of her breast, everybody, oh, that'd be so hard. Oh, that's so, but they didn't do that for transplant people. So, the guilt thing was a real problem. It's still a real problem for people. I mean, if you're human, you're going to feel guilty about it, I think. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can get that. Yeah, like Diana says, makes perfect sense, Stephen. And so it's a process, right? It's a process. How much did the guilt override the grateful for you?
Well, in the beginning, like I would do these trainings and I'd hear these stories of how their loved ones who became donors died. And you just can't believe how the ways people die. You never knew that. And I'd hear these stories and I'd have to lay down for 2 days because the guilt was overwhelming me. So in the beginning, it was almost unbearable, but now it's like, now I'm, made peace with it. I still have it to a degree, but I've made peace with it.
Is there a meeting or any? I know sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Depends on the scenario. With the family of the person who is the giver, the provider of whatever the transplant is, the heart, the liver, whatever it may be.
Oh, okay. When you get your organ, you're supposed to write a letter of thanks to the donor family, which has to be anonymous. It goes through the OPO, the Organ Procurement Organization, and it has to have no names and no addresses on it. I wrote 3 letters to my first donor family, and they didn't respond. So they didn't want to know about me. They wanted to just move on. That's their right. I let it go. On my second heart transplant, I wrote my letter right away. I wrote it on like the 6th day that I was home. And then I think I wrote 2 or 3 letters total. And I was thinking, well, they don't want to hear from me either. And then the OPO in California called me and said, would you like to get a letter from your recipient, from your donor family? I was like, wow, yeah. And it was a handwritten letter by the mother.
Mm.
And I mean, my gosh, I can't tell you. I mean, I was holding it against my chest, and I didn't know his name because you can't use names or anything. But we finally connected with each other, the family. His name was David Jason Jacobo. He was 36. He walked into his house with his mother and his father and his sister there. He grabbed the wall and had a brain aneurysm. And
I had a cousin we lost at 42 of that.
Really?
Yeah.
So
married with 2 children. His daughter was graduating from high school that week.
This guy had just gotten divorced. He had 4 children. That's why he was living with his parents. Beautiful little children. And now they're growing up. But at the time, one of them was a baby at the time. And I went to that. Rose and I went to visit them in LA. Because I had to go to LA to get my organ because they didn't have them here. Mm. And the nicest family, as you would imagine, if they're going to do that. And the thing about donors that you have to say, and this is the mother Susan did this, think about the grief that they are going through, and yet they have the grace to say, no, this would help somebody else. That's astounding to me. And that's what she and her husband David did. And I got to meet them, and met the children. I met a very large family. And I think the first day they went there was like 18 or 21 people there. And it was amazing. They were all hugging me, and they were all so glad that I was there. They all told me I was family now. I mean, what else could you want?
They feel like a piece of the person that is gone is living literally within you now.
That is literally true. Not only am I keeping him alive, he's keeping me. It's a real mutual thing. And I never think of this as mine. This is not my heart. My heart's at home in a jar. And so it's upstairs in a jar, literally.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. My real heart.
Preserved and.
Yeah. And which, by the way, caused a real stir at Columbia when I demanded it. They didn't want to give it to me. I told them I wanted it for religious reasons. And that's that argument down.
Sandwich.
Right. But I was the first person in Columbia's history to go home with their
to say, "Can I have
what they call a native heart?"
And how is that kept in? I mean, how did they actually package it? I mean, just
they put it in a plastic thing, and I had to move it into a.
Is it refrigerated or
no? It's in alcohol. It's complete submerged in alcohol, which is what they told you. It's in a giant bean jar that's glass, and I I'm sorry guys out there, but none of you can beat me. I've actually given my heart to my wife, so there. Yeah, but so
several
if I
times.
if I die, it goes with me. If she dies first, it goes with her.
Yeah.
That's the arrangement. And I never show it to anybody. It's not a show and tell thing. It's just that I owed so much to that heart. I couldn't stand the idea of it being buried or burned or, in a garbage pile.
It's a good thing you didn't do all this in San Francisco, because you would have left your heart in San Francisco.
Yeah. And by the way, when I was getting my second transplant, I demanded that, and I got that when they took the heart out, there would be some kind of clergy there to say blessings over it.
Over the heart. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
of my first donor's
Your
heart.
first heart. So, what again was the issue with the heart that precipitated in this need for the transplant? Was there a heart
A
attack,
virus,
or
a
the
virus,
virus came in?
a
People don't
virus.
realize that a virus does a number, not only, and they're learning that with the COVID, the heart, the neurological system. Not
Yep.
only we think the breathing and the lungs, but the heart, the neurological system, the brain too. People have had issues, permanent issues with the brain. I would imagine for you with this COVID situation, you've had to stay completely away from everything and everyone.
No,
No, really?
no,
Wow.
no. I'm not afraid of the virus. I'm not afraid of that. I go out to eat like 4 times a week. I just go out as much as I want.
Once you've
I
survived
mean,
those things, yeah.
well, it's also I take zinc and I take vitamin C and I take
Vitamin C, yeah.
D and I take vitamin D every day.
D is important, yes.
Right.
D3.
I'm out in the sun a lot every day, which they're finding out is really, really important for it. I wear my mask. I know it doesn't really do anything because if you know anything about these masks, they do not stop viruses. They're the particles that they can stop are too. They're for biologic
Very finite.
a virus is 10,000 times small, is 100,000, no, 10,000 times smaller than what those masks are designed to stop. So the virus is actually just going in and out of that mask anyway. But I wear my mask, I do my social distancing, I do all that stuff. But I've had to battle for my life too hard to be holed up in my house like I'm scared. I'm here to live my life. I'm not here to be afraid to live my life.
You've had 2 heart transplants.
Yes.
So the first one didn't take, or what happened?
No, they only last a certain amount of time. My first heart transplant, they had to get me a heart so quickly because I was really close that they got me one that wasn't an ideal match.
What did they look for that?
They look for 6 enzyme matches, blood type, and size. And I had no enzyme matches, and I had the blood type and size were correct. So, but I got that heart to last for 15 years, which is really a miracle. But it was starting to reject almost from day one. I had something called transplant. Oh my God. Coronary artery disease. So it's not coronary artery disease like you get if you're having a heart attack because you eat badly. It's because the rejection process is inflaming your vessels, and those are closing down. It's not from plaque; it's from inflammation. So
inflammation, right?
Right. So originally, the virus, when I got the virus that killed my first heart, I was told it was probably a short-lived virus, but it stayed in the heart and damaged it enough that the heart just kept moving on to failure. But the heart then, my first donor's heart, his name was Lawrence. That's all I know. His heart, the first year they saw inflammation, but I got it to last for 15 years. And this month, March 9th was the anniversary of my second heart transplant. And March 27th is the 20th anniversary of my first heart transplant.
Wow.
So I got that heart to last almost exactly 15 years. Which is one of the reasons why they gave me another one at the age of 61, because they knew I'd take care of it.
So the heart that you have now, is there a span with that too that they say?
Well, so far I just had the test that they see if you're having that, and there's no inflammation on this one so far, and this one's doing really well. My health is better. It took me 2 years to recover from the second operation. It was horrendous, and but I'm eating right. I exercise for an hour a day. I really eat well. I count my calories. I count what I eat. I don't eat preservatives. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat white flour. Those are the things that will keep you alive. Everybody, why don't you take this for a hint? Exercise every day. Eat right.
So the flour and the sugar, you got rid of that.
And that's another reason why I'm not afraid of the virus, because the virus lives in, they have found that the majority of the people who've died from the virus were obese. And the virus lives on fat.
Obese, diabetic, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm a diabetic because I'm a drug-induced diabetic. That's what they call it. The drugs they gave me made me a diabetic, but my A1C numbers are really low because I eat right. So I don't have to, and the doctor told me you don't have to worry about the things most diabetics have to worry about because your numbers are good.
Are good, right? So when you wrote this book, how open did you want to be? Did you know I want to just spell it all out for everybody so they can learn? What is it that you hope people take away from the book?
Well, I am naked in this book. I let out. I just figured if anybody's going to believe this, anybody's going to learn something from it, I just have to be completely honest. And I am literally naked in this book. Sometimes some of it was very difficult to write that way, but I feel like it would help people. And I've gotten people write me letters, and they write me on Facebook, and they write me on all the different places, and they say, I read your book, and I did what you said when I was in the hospital, and man, you're right, it works. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people to understand that you have to have strategies. I don't go to a doctor's office without a strategy. And I certainly don't go to a hospital without a strategy. And I employ many strategies all the time when I'm in the hospital. And they are life-saving. And I want to get, if I may, when I speak to groups of doctors, I speak to them with this. I start with this sentence. I say, you have a patient, and they say, doctor, I'm sick. And the doctor says, yeah, you are. And then the patient says, doctor, can you heal me? And the doctor says, yes, I can. Okay, who's right in that conversation? Who's wrong in that conversation?
That's a good question, actually.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, I know. Who would you say?
They're both wrong.
They're both wrong.
They're both wrong. The doctor doesn't do the healing. The patient does the healing. The doctor promotes the healing. So the patient has to understand their relationship, and the doctor has to understand their relationship. And a lot of patients and doctors don't understand this. And that's one of the main things I'm trying to get out into the world is the doctor promotes the healing. The doctor could be the most gifted surgeon in the world. I've certainly had my share of them. I mean, look, I'm still here. I'm here from doctors, and I love doctors, but they're not the ones who healed me. I healed me. I'm the one who did the healing. They promoted the healing.
Do you find
that's the difference?
That's the difference. Do you find that sometimes we tend to place the doctor in the role of being God, like going to the doctor, getting the prescription? They are miracle workers, and just because I went to the doctor and I'm taking this medicine, I'm good to go, and they're supposed to solve all the problems, and I don't have to participate in that self-care. But nothing could be further from the truth, right? Like you say,
right.
It's only as much as if you're given medicine and you don't take it, or you're told there's a regimen you have to do, or a routine,
or you're non-compliant, right?
Lifestyle change or whatever, stop smoking or any of this, you don't do it. It's really, you're playing Russian roulette with your own life, right?
Right. And you're also, if you're both under that delusion, you're not facing the responsibilities each of you have to each other. So the doctor is there to understand that he's there to promote the healing, and nothing's going to happen if the patient doesn't want to heal. And the patient is there to understand that they're the ones who are there to heal, and they're supposed to do what the doctor tells them to do, and all the good work that they do. And now it's their job to run with the ball and cure themselves. So, I mean, how many times have you heard of an old couple where one of them dies? They've been married for 70 years, and the other one's dead in a week. That's because they don't want to live anymore. And they literally stop living. That
one dies after the other. Yeah.
Right. How many times you hear doctors say, which we've heard all my life, that I'm a fighter? Well, how many times have you heard a doctor say about a patient, he's a fighter, she's a fighter? That's what they mean. Thank you, Jennifer. The doctor has to understand that that's his position, and the patient has to understand that that's their position. And they both are playing a dance that they're doing together.
Right.
And if they both don't do the dance together, maybe the patient will heal, but not the way they could have.
Right. And maybe not for as long as they would like to have in terms of being here on the planet. Good question here. From Linda in Florida. She goes, I'm curious, Stephen, do you know how many hearts one person is allowed to receive?
They can receive as many as they can receive depending on their age. So, I mean, a lot of children So, I mean, you can get a baby who gets a heart transplant really at a very, very young age, and they're going to have to give another transplant just to keep the heart up with the size of the baby. So those people can have, I don't know what the number is, but they'll get as many transplants as they need as long as they're healthy enough.
Mm.
I've had 2, but I've known people who have 3, but I'm sure that people with higher numbers than that.
Mm. That's amazing. Juanita in South Africa says her daughter's bestie, who is also 6 years old, having a kidney removed this week. Her parents are terrified. Any words of wisdom for her parents in such a situation?
Well, one thing would be not to transfer that terror to the child. That's a really big thing. Please don't do that to your child. You can live on one kidney. If God forbid anything happens to that other kidney, in most places, I don't know about South Africa, but in most places, if you have one kidney and your kidney is going bad, you go to the top of the list. If you're somebody who donates a kidney and your other kidney goes bad, you go to the top of the list. So she should be fine. They're taking it out because there's a disease process they have to stop. That's a good thing. And I've met many people who have had one kidney for 50 years. So it should be no problem for them. I just don't want her parents to transfer that fear to them.
Dina says, I worked as a phlebotomist at a major hospital in Cleveland years ago and would draw transplant patients. Amazing story. Some said, meet the first patient that received a double lung transplant as well. It really is.
It's amazing. Yes.
It's absolutely. What have you learned about yourself through all of this? Are you stronger and more resilient than you thought you would ever be?
Especially after what I went through in the second operation, I guess so. But I don't look at it that way. I just look at it as this is the road that I'm on. I have to go forward on it. I don't have a choice. I don't look at it as, am I this or am I that? I just know I have to do it. And I just do. Does that answer you?
That answers it. Yeah, you're just living life and not necessarily focusing on anything considered heroic or any of the
right.
Though,
well, I do focus on being grateful all the time.
And I think there is the incredible mentoring ability that you have to want to be a part of the transplant, the Speakers Bureau, because you could easily just remain quiet and have just dealt with this from a personal standpoint with your family and closest friends and relatives and not told your story, not shared it. But you've had this deep desire to want to inspire other people through the book, through your work with the Speakers Bureau. And that's a beautiful thing too. That does take a special person, even though you're very humble and won't say it. It does take a special person to be willing to open up, be naked in the book, be a part of the Speakers Bureau, speak to others, inspire others, lift others up, comfort them in the way that you do. It does take a special soul, a special person to do that, but that's obviously who you are and the person that you are. You really, having gone through it in the way that you have, experienced all the elements of it, the blood, sweat, and tears of it all, the joy, the grateful, the sad, the guilt, the fear, the risk, all the things that are involved. It's something that it's in your DNA to want to guide and care for and inspire others in the way that you're doing so beautifully, Stephen.
I hope so. I mean, sincerely, I wrote the book because I think it's for anybody. It's for if you're sick, you should read the book. If you're caring for somebody who's sick, you should read the book. If you just want to make your life better, and everybody is healthy, including you, read the book. You'll get something out of it. I mean, I've been fortunate. If you look at my, it was an Amazon bestseller, and the audiobook just came out. It's on everything like Nook and all those things now, and it's going to be on Audible in probably 2 weeks. But the book is designed, for everybody. But I get a lot of reaction from patients who find it, whether they're caregivers or it's themselves, that it helps them, and that's what I wanted. I just wanted to make sure that what I've learned doesn't just stop with me. It doesn't seem like that would make sense, all
this wonderful work that you've done in television and as a producer, director, production company owner, and all the people you've worked with and all the creativity you've been involved in, which is extraordinary. This is like part 2 of your life. This is like that second chapter, pun intended with the book, but it is like this second chapter, and almost It's the work of your life. Even though you've done all of that great work, within the television world and film and commercial, this work is legacy. Not that you've set out to make it your legacy. It really is legacy type of work. Think of the lives being touched as they read the book. Think of the lives being touched when you're speaking with the Speakers Bureau team, and just people who randomly come up to you and pour their hearts out, and they share their stories, whether it's through social media or handwritten letter or an email or some comment or at Home Depot in the wood paneling aisle or something. Just the fact that people are willing to feel connected because you took the step forward of opening up about your life where a lot of people wouldn't have. And that's very relatable for other people who are not just going through a situation of maybe specifically a heart transplant, but anything in life that makes us fearful, worried, concerned, counting the minutes on the clock, not really savoring every minute of our life and really living it fully. I'm sure with everything that's gone on in your life, you have made it a point, not that you didn't do it before, but you're extra aware of living every moment and savoring every moment, the good, bad, and ugly, to its fullest, realizing that, time is not guaranteed, and it's not, lengthy for any of us. There's no tomorrow promises, no written contracts for tomorrow. So you have this wonderful new lease on life in many different ways. So you can really speak to what life is all about and appreciate the fragility of it all. So when people are hung up on the idiocy of life, the chasing the bling and chasing the nonsensical stuff of life and the road rage and all the things that are stuff that I can't stand, actually, and stuff that people do, they get hung up on the bickering and divisiveness and all the crazy nonsense. And here's a guy that's had 2 heart transplants, and he's live on our show, opening up his heart to all of us. That's what life's all about, not whether or not, the guy got, in the lane ahead of you and cut you off, or, oh, my car is bigger than yours, or the jewelry I'm wearing is fancier than yours, and all the stuff that everybody tends to get involved in, which is really nonsense, and worrying what everybody else is doing. Here's a guy that, you've had, right down to the brass tacks of it all, experienced the fragility of it all. What would you say to people who might be listening to this live right now or later in the archives, who haven't had these experiences, and maybe they are caught up in some of that, nonsensical stuff of life? They get ticked off quickly. They're divisive. They don't want to listen. They don't want to unify. They just, they don't think they need anybody. And they're chasing, the cars, the jewelry, and the mansion.
Oh, here's the bottom line on all of that. You're all going to die. Every one of us is going to die. And however long we have is not written, unless you're on death row, waiting to be executed. They're the only people who know for certain. So we're all going to die, and everything you own is not yours anymore. It stays here. Everything you are is what moves on. The love in you moves on. The hate in you moves on. Who you are moves on. I know that from experience. But all your stuff, your BMW, it's going to get sold. Your house, it's going to get sold. Your furniture, all your photographs will mean nothing to anybody else. Everything that you have means nothing. And, one day the sun is going to consume the earth. So nothing's going to be left at all. So I try to concentrate on, and I think people should try to concentrate on, not what we are, but who we are, not what we have, but who we are inside and how we treat other people. How we treat other people is a real key to how happy you're going to be. I find that the more service that you give, the more that you're nice to people, the more that you go out of your way to do something for a stranger, you help somebody, that gives you a feeling that you cannot buy, and it makes your life richer. And those are the things that I like to concentrate on, and that's what I like people to concentrate on, because That's just the way it is. Well, I mean, death is like the night. It's coming. It's coming for all of us. So, if you think it's that car that you have to get, remember that car is going to stay in the garage and it's going to get sold. So that's not the stuff that lasts.
Beautifully said, right? Beautifully said. And that's so true. And sometimes, we all get hung up on the trappings of life. But I think that you were aware of these things with an old soul early on when you were that kid. I think you had an understanding, like you said, at 6 years old, you already understood death, which is amazing because I did around 5 or 6 as well. Now, sometimes I do say to myself, I almost wish being that young, I wasn't aware of it and always had it sort of back there, knowing, that this aunt is going to pass and this grandparent's eventually going to pass and that uncle will. But I think it's done 2 things. I think the main thing that I look at as a result of it is having a real appreciation and understanding of it. I wasn't ill. I haven't had transplants. There wasn't any of that, though I've seen it happen to friends and people I care about. I think what it did for me early on was really savor at an early age the things in life that truly matter most. I cherish, and I have since I was a kid, every sunset, every time we're driving over a bridge, even if it's the same darn bridge we drive over every day, I always look at the view and I'm always marveled by the engineering and architecture of the bridge. When I go to the top of a skyscraper, I always look out and I'm marveling in the beauty of what is actually happening and what we're experiencing, and that this has been created by man. But at the same time, I'm so in tune with and understand the natural things around us too. Like I've mentioned often on this show, the ocean. I said to everybody during the COVID situation and all of the horrific nature of everything that's happened with COVID and the economy and the civil unrest and the political stuff that's gone on, surround yourself with the things that are constant in life. When it seems like the rug may be pulled underneath you and nothing you thought about or believed in, or your whole world's disappearing in front of you or spinning out of control and you can't grab on for a life raft, go to the things in life that have been there 1,000 years before you and will be there 1,000 years after. We're blessed because we live near oceans and water here on the Northeast coast. So you can go to the water and watch the tide come in and out constantly, consistently, and it's going to do it tomorrow. It's doing it now. It did it yesterday. Watch the sun rise, watch the sun set. Go into nature and watch the wind blow through the leaves and watch the squirrels trying to scurry as they do habitually for the nuts to get ready for the winter. Basic things that are going on daily, which are beautiful things that are around us that remind us that, okay, it seems like things are, a little shaky. Maybe you feel like your feet aren't planted on a ground that is steady anymore in many aspects. Go to the things that are constant, that regardless of what happens to us as humans are still going to be there. The ocean doesn't know there's COVID. Squirrels and birds don't know it's COVID. Your dog or your cat or the goldfish in the bowl doesn't know that. They're still doing their thing and they're going to do it tomorrow. And the record you put on or the CD or whatever, or what's in your iPod, that music is still there now and it was there yesterday. Reruns of the Dick Van Dyke Show are still there. Follow constant things to help get you through, and the love of family and friends. Cherish them while they're here as well in relationships. But go to the things that are larger than yourself. Get out of yourself and go to the things that are larger than yourself, that are there, regardless of what's going on in the world. The ocean is there. The sun is there. Animals are there. Plant a garden. Gardening was the most popular hobby this past summer because it's nurturing and you sort of control it, and it pays dividends of flowers and foliage and plants that give off vegetables and fruits. It's just the nature of life. So I just say, go to the constants in life. and really savor the things that matter most, which sometimes are the things that we neglect that are right in front of us. Go to a botanical garden and surround yourself in that. That's incredible stuff. Don't just go when things are good, go when times aren't so good, and you'll get a revival of what life's all about,
Kind of what you're saying is, you're saying something very similarly to what I always say, and that is always count your blessings. And people just don't count their blessings enough. And they don't think, one of the things that really bothers me is when I hear somebody say, why me? Something happens to them, why me? I have never said that. You can ask anybody who's known me. I never say why me, because why me is whiny, right? And
why me is whiny, yeah.
Yeah, why me is whiny. That's I made that up. So I'm copywriting that.
That's copyright.
So, Rose and I were, when I first got to Cedars.
You have that and I have levity. What a team.
Right. Yeah, right. When Rose and I first got to Cedars, I was ambulatory for the first 3 days. And there was a woman in her room screaming so much. And she wasn't mentally ill or anything. She was just out of control. And there were 5 security people in her room because she was making such a scene. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Who's going to want to come into your room and help you? But if you are the kind of person who's counting your blessings, and you have so many blessings, every one of us, I have a roof over my head, right? I'm wearing clothes. I'm going to eat in a little while. I have 2 dogs. I have a wife. I have my health. I'm on this show. This is a blessing. All these people who are sharing with us, they're a blessing. You cannot even count all the blessings that you have every day. And by the way, the last line of my book is, may you always be aware of the blessings that surround you. And that is real, because if you do that, if you count your blessings all the time in the littlest things, are blessings all the time. Today I had a guy go way out of his way to open the door for me. Way out of his way. And that was a blessing. If you do that, it puts you into an attitude of gratitude, and there's no room for fear. There's no room for all the other negative things. So it's a health thing, and it's a thing for living a happier life. If you just get into the idea of counting your blessings, and what you just said about surrounding yourself by blessings is part of that. And I really agree with what you said. That was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Blessings and the joys and the constants in life. It's important to do that every single day, not just when things go awry or things are.
Oh, you have to count your blessings when things are wrong the most. Actually, you have to count your blessings that the thing that went wrong. If you want to really, the Bible says, not that I'm really religious, but I'm very spiritual, but the Bible says, be grateful in all things, not the things that are good. All things. And that's because that's the path you're on, and that's there meant as a lesson.
Right. So there's teachable moments and everything.
You may be going through pain for it, but it's there for a reason. It's there to help you.
Right. When we go through things in our life that aren't things that we perfectly scripted and things that match what we thought were going to be, those are moments. And sometimes those moments actually can make us richer. I'm talking monetarily, just we have a different understanding of people and what life's all about, and a compassion for others who are going through various things. And it comes with time and years and wisdom and experiences. But sometimes those losses or just situations that we would rather have not had to deal with, but have had to deal with, make us stronger, more resilient, give us a wider perspective, and hopefully more compassion and empathy for others, as well as you have to have compassion and empathy for yourself too. A lot of people are going through life and they've had a lot of time during this year of COVID to look in the mirror and pause and say, okay, what have I done thus far? And what do I want to do next? Relationships, careers, self-improvement, whatever it is. What do I want to do? Write that book, take up guitar, call that friend where the friendship sort of fizzled a little bit, maybe try to reignite it. Whatever it is, a lot of people have had a lot of time to pause and pivot and look at their own lives. And numbers of people I've spoken to have said that this, as horrific as the situation's been for the world at large in the last 12 months, there have been blessings, and there's been opportunity, and there's been entrepreneurial spirit, and there's been a lot of people who have risen to the occasion from the ashes in a way that's more empathetic and compassionate and loving, and want to continue going in that direction post all of this trauma that's been going on. So that's a beautiful thing. It's like taking the lemon and, you got lemonade. A choice: make the lemonade, or let the lemon just stay the lemon and bite into that lemon as it is.
Right.
And that's it, right?
No, that's absolutely right. It's this. You just said everything right. I mean, so I don't have anything to add to that because we really have covered this. But here's the thing: when I say to doctors, is when you've got a patient who's going, oh, why does this always happen to me? Why me? Why, all these bad things happen to me. I'm trying to teach doctors that maybe, if possible, because it's not always possible because of the person involved, but the doctor could coach that person into some gratitude by saying, well, here you are in a warm hospital with a bed and blankets and nurses and doctors and a whole building of people where all we want to do is make you better. So that's something you could be grateful for, and get them into the idea that they could be grateful for something instead of concentrating on. Once they concentrate on what they could be grateful for, they're going to stop concentrating on what they don't have to be grateful for, and and why they're upset and all that. And I think that if I could learn how to coach doctors to do that, it would help a lot of patients. I think that is part of the doctor's job, because that is to promote healing.
Do you fear death?
No. If I told you how many times I've almost died, you'd faint. But I know it's coming. I mean, it's part of life. And I've told my doctor that if I'm in the hospital, when in the end, if at all possible, I want to make sure that I'm still awake. Because I'm waiting my entire life for that moment, literally, right? My entire life from birth, I'm waiting for that moment. I don't want to miss it. I want to be there for it. And I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us. It's just the way of the world, and that's life. And I also believe, though, that it's just a door to the next place. And if you believe in the concept of eternity, and now we're really actually talking about all sorts of science theories and things, but I do believe in eternity. But I don't think it goes from here to someplace else. That's not eternity. Eternity, the definition of eternity is always was, always will be. So that means that somehow I've been around before. And the very fact that you use the term old soul suggests that you kind of think that too. So
my father has always said two things: Jim, you were born 30 years too late, and Jim, you should have gone into comedy.
but the thing is, though, that when we die, we go to another place. And the way the world works, the way everything works, is always circles, and everything spins. And that to me means that I'm going to go from here to another reality, and then from that one to another one. And that's eternity to me. I don't think it's like heaven or hell forever. I don't see God working that way. And just in nature and everything else, it just doesn't make sense for the way I see God working. If I'm wrong, well, I'm going to be wrong. I hope I'm in the right place. But I do think that we're all going to die. How could you be afraid of something that's inevitably going to happen? So if you want to live a better life, if you want to be a happier life, embrace your death and know that it's going to happen, and look forward to what the next thing is going to be, instead of being afraid of what the next thing is going to be.
Do you find, right, exactly, because sometimes we're so consumed with perfectly organizing and scripting tomorrow that we're missing what's actually freely happening today, right?
That's exactly what makes God laugh, right?
He's like,
Scripting your life is what makes God laugh, because he's going to throw a hammer into that, you know.
right, exactly.
Right.
You will get that flat tire eventually,
Yes,
and
yes.
you know what I mean. Those things. It's the work. It just keeps spinning. And what are some things through all of this that you have learned about Stephen that you didn't know, or that you've been able to tap into through these experiences?
Oh, I've learned that I've always been more spiritual than I ever realized. I've had two out of body experiences now. One when I was 6, and the other one when I was 17. And I had guidance in both of those. I think that I've learned that there's been some kind of spiritual something that's been on my shoulder watching out for me that I didn't realize until a while ago. I think those are the main things that I've learned about that. I've learned that I can make myself naked in front of an audience, figuratively, in writing this book. And that was very difficult for me, but I was able to do it, and I learned that I could do that. And now when I speak, whether it's I'm making a presentation or I'm on some kind of a show, I find that I can do that. And I'm always completely honest and completely open about these things. And that's something I've learned that I can do about Stephen.
That's beautiful. And if you had decided to, open up naked, literally, we would had to have done this on radio.
But if it had been literal, believe me, you would have lost your audience in 1 second.
It would have been absolute, what they call theater of the mind.
Yes. Inner ear theater, I used to call it when I was in radio.
Inner ear theater, right? This just in. So again, the book, the title, Grateful Guilt. Now, is that a silhouette of you?
Yes, it is.
You? Yeah.
You know the psychiatric, the abandoned psychiatric hospitals in Kings Point,
Pilgrim State, and Kings
Park, Kings Park,
Long Island, and Pilgrim State.
That's Kings Park.
Oh, wow!
A friend of mine went exploring through there, and he took that photograph. And
that's quite those are something.
You don't see my camera around my neck in that silhouette, but I had a camera too.
There's a couple of people on YouTube who go and they visit abandoned everything, psychiatric hospitals, amusement parks, office towers, and there's a couple of guys that went into that building, and I think they went to Pilgrim State too, and they went in, and really, really amazing, absolutely amazing. How has the whole transplant process evolved over the years in terms of what the process is like, and some of the aftercare, some of the comfort care that comes beyond the physical transplant that happens?
Well, here's a really interesting thing. When I first got my first transplant, and they do this thing where they go in through your groin and they take pieces of the heart to see if you're rejecting. All right. And I could feel everywhere where that catheter was. I could tell them exactly where it was. I had a doctor who didn't believe me. And when they took a piece, it would hurt me. And they didn't believe me that I could do that. And then she did a test on me one day, and she made the noise as she took a piece. And I said, no, I didn't feel that. And then she took a piece, and I went, ow. And then she goes, and she did that several times. And she goes, you're telling the truth. You really can feel this. And it was a big deal. People were like freaking out that I could feel that, because they cut the nerve to your heart. But apparently in some people, the pain nerves grow back. But now, at my last catheterization, my doctor, which was just like a month ago, the doctor said to me, that's not so uncommon anymore. So that makes me believe that the pain nerves are growing back, but not the nerves that control the heart. But that makes me think that they're doing things better, that the drugs have to have been improved for that to be happening. So I think that part is better. Now the transportation of the organs is improving tremendously. Now they used to suspend it in an igloo cooler with dry ice, but some of the organs were getting freezer burn, and they were getting and they're actually getting partially frozen, and that was causing problems later on. But now they're coming up with these things that keep the heart beating while it's in transport, and they're coming up with all these new things that make it much better. So just in the 20 years, 20 years with the technologies of today is really quite a long time.
It really is.
So things really have improved.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody right now who's maybe they're on the list to get a transplant, or they know somebody that is, and they're very nervous and worried and concerned about the entire process, even just that the body has to be opened and something has to come out and something has to go in and all of that. They're consumed with worry and fear about it, or maybe they heard a story where it didn't go well, or somebody passed or something. What would you say, and I'm sure you say things on a regular basis, Steve, maybe to give them a little sense of ease and comfort if there is any available?
Well, putting that kind of fear in yourself is hurting you. That's the worst. That's the worst thing you could do. You're terrifying yourself. You don't need to be terrified. When you're terrified, your body is stiff. Anything they do on you is going to hurt more. I understand it's terrifying. Believe me, I've been there. I understand that. But you have to get yourself not to be terrified. You have to get yourself, I don't know how religious you are. Like I said, I'm not a religious person in the sense that I don't go to church. But at some point, you have to put everything in the hands of something bigger than yourself. That's a good way to go. You have to just say to yourself, well, what will be, what is, God's will, however you want to say it. But you have to get yourself to stop being like that, because you're hurting yourself. The more, like I said, the more scared you are, the stiffer you are, the tougher everything's going to be for you. So just relax into it. It is what it is. What's going to happen is going to happen. You don't know what it is. If you're waiting for a transplant, odds are you're going to do well, right? There's always the chance you won't. At some point, I won't. At some point, you won't. We never know when it is, but I think you have to get yourself to calm down is a really big thing. I have it in my book where I was in a procedure. I was right when all this started again. I was so scared. You could have put me between two chairs, laying down. You could have used me as a plank. I was so stiff. And then I realized that by doing that, I was hurting myself, and I got myself out of that. In that moment, I got myself out of it. And that's a really important chapter in the book, by the way. I don't want to give it away. And it was really one of the best moments of my life. I mean, I had an incredible experience in this point. But after I did that, I was good all through until it was done. Until during the wait, during everything, it put me in a Zen zone of comfort for myself that just made everything possible. Here's what you have to do as a person on a list like this. You have to walk a line of 50-50. You have to have 50% willing to die and 50% willing to live. You can't go 51-49 on either direction. You have to be 50-50 that everything's okay. That will put you in a place where everything is doable.
That's yeah. But and emphasize or try to lean towards the positive, right, of it. Realize the other 50's there, but maybe try to
but never 51-49. Yeah. It's got to be 50-50. That 50-50, that tightrope walk that you do, once you're at 50-50, you can walk it out as if it was a cement walkway. It's so wide. That's the 50-50 is the thing that keeps you on balance. Pretend you want to be in balance, and that's 50-50, not 49-51. And so you're like, okay, if things go bad, they go bad. If things go good, I'm ready to live. So you make your plans. Yeah,
right. Well, I'm a Libra, and we're the sign of the scale, so we're balanced. We like it balanced. So 50-50 would be about. Well, I've always feared coma. being there in the room in a hospital where everybody's around me, loved ones, friends, and they're coming in and out of the room and they're visiting and the nurses are coming in and out and the doctors, and you hear them all talking and you hear them all expressing their care and love, and then you hear them chatting, but you cannot respond at all. You can't physically move, you can't respond, but you cannot communicate. And I'm a communicator, and I'm communal. You can't communicate, you can't respond, but you can hear. And you're only in your own mind. The only thoughts you have are the ones that are being created in your own mind. And how claustrophobic that would seem to me a little bit. Not that it can never happen to any of us, but that's something I think, the entrapment of being in a coma, laying there where I cannot communicate, I cannot respond, I cannot move, but I hear everything. And my mind is just thinking and thinking and thinking. You can't quiet it because there's nothing to distract it from, because you're not able to see anything. And that type of thing, I think, for me, has always been something that I would cross off the list if an option was there. Just like,
yeah, that would be crossed off my list too, as would be burned alive. So,
that's a rough one. Yes. Yeah.
Which actually happened to a friend of mine while I was waiting on 5 years ago. So, that's something that I really don't want to know about, but
no,
but you don't get to pick these things.
No, right. You don't. There's a nice comment that came in from Jennifer Barry, who was watching, one of our lovely viewers in Allentown, Pennsylvania. She goes, I was born with so many natural health issues that even though I'd love to donate, she'd be afraid, not for her, but who would receive it. Am I wrong for feeling that way? So she's had a lot of health issues in her life. Yes. She's afraid to give an organ or what have you because she's had health issues.
Right. Well, God bless you for being that you want to do that, but I don't like the way that you use the word wrong. You're not wrong. But here's what I would say: be a donor and let them decide. They reject people all the time, but at least let them say. I mean, they could take skin, and if they take your skin, it's like when you peel from a sunburn. That's how much they take, and they take it from you back. But you could save somebody's life who was in a fire. It could be your corneas. It could be all these things that you don't even think of that they could take. If they find you that they could do it. If they find out that your organs wouldn't work out, they just won't take them. But if you want to, you could be a donor and leave it up to them, and you could feel okay about that. And you're not wrong. Okay, you're fine.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing to say. Absolutely, you're not wrong. So what is it you think that is causing, well, you mentioned New York. Where within the confines of the United States is the highest in terms of people who are donating organs?
I forget which state right now. I think it's Wyoming is the number one state.
Wyoming.
And you go to the whole Northeast is low. You go to the South, you go to the coast, the other coast, you go to the Midwest, all of them donate well. I mean, right now, the hospital with the most heart transplant operations in the country is in Vanderbilt in Nashville.
So what do you think the reasoning is? What is it about? Is it cultural? Is it upbringing? What is it? The fast-paced environment where we don't think of these things? What do you think it is?
Well, LA is just as fast-paced as we are, and they have so many hearts there that while I was there were 5 other people from Colombia there, literally. So it's not that; it's the fact that the OPOs, the organ procurement organizations, are more involved out there. They advertise out there. It's taught in the schools. It's on the side of buses. They make you aware, and the people go, yeah, that's a good idea. But how many advertisements have you seen you're in my area. How many advertisements have you seen to be a donor?
In the tri-state area, I don't think I've seen anything on billboards or buses or
nothing, right?
Commercials on TV, or
they teach it in schools out there in all these other places. I mean, they're very active about it. I think that's got to be a good part of it. It's not in front. If it's not in front of you, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, why would a person going from out there every day think about, oh, I should be a donor, unless something comes up to make them think that?
Right. Exactly right.
It's like
Yeah.
just like the fact that, until I needed a heart transplant, I didn't know anything about it. Why would I? Right? Until you get cancer, why would you know anything about it? Why would you? It's not until something like that happens to you that you start researching it, you start looking into it, And it's the same thing with donation. If it's not brought up to you. Now, Suffolk County Police, really big on this. Their idea that a donation as somebody's last wish is something that really has to be honored is amazing. And I teach at the academy 3 times a year, and I teach each class coming through about make sure the person's driver's license gets to the ER. If they're a donor, you don't want their last wish not to be granted. And they are so about that. But I get to teach 60 cadets at a time that this is about donation. And I would say when I get in the room, those people, when I say raise your hands if you're already a donor, half the room raises their hand. That's a really high amount. And then at the end of the day, at the end of my presentation, they have, I'd say about 25 of them fill out the form to become a donor. So again, it's because it's presented to them. They're made aware of it.
Is this something that's globally universal? Are most countries set up to do this kind of thing, or is this exclusive to Western culture?
No. They're all, Iran does them. Everybody does them. But the thing that's really interesting to me is that, as far as I am aware of right now, last time I looked, we're the only nation that will give you an organ if you're not native born. So you could move to Italy, you could move to name the country, you could move to Australia, and you could become a citizen there, and you need an organ, you won't get one because you weren't native born. We're the only country that does that I'm aware of.
That's amazing. Yeah. God bless America.
Yeah.
Really a beautiful thing. In South Africa, Juanita had said, fun fact, Dr. Christian Barnard from South Africa, first cardiac surgeon who performed the world's first human-to-human heart transplant operation. There are some...
I think it lasted 14 days, something like that.
There are some animal-to-human transplants. So tell us about that.
Actually, this is really fascinating, because I was thinking that the future transplantation was going to be printing, but apparently the algorithms to get all the little vessels in all the right places. I mean, we're talking about capillaries here. The math is just ridiculous. And so they're really working on swine, on pigs, because pigs are been considered an analog of humans for a long time. The heart is the right size. The lungs are the right size. You can do a transfer from a pig to a human pretty easily. The problem is that there are diseases and things in pigs that we could catch. The other thing is it'll reject. But they're working on the genes of this, and Colombia, actually, I thought about 15 years ago, was working on this, and they had developed a pig that wouldn't reject, but there were so many other complications. But I just had a discussion with a transplant surgeon a couple of weeks ago, and he said that he thinks that this is going to be the way of transplants in the future, that using probably pigs, because chimpanzees and all that, first of all, they're too human, and it's, nobody wants to euthanize a chimp for this, and their hearts are too small. But a pig is perfect. And they're thinking that all they have to do is isolate the gene that would make the heart, the organ be rejected. And all they have to do is isolate whatever viruses and pathogens the pig might transfer. And if they do that, this transplant surgeon is saying, we'll have organs for everybody. And they won't reject. You won't need the drugs. I take 46 pills a day.
You do.
I won't have to do that,
Yeah. Yep. That's amazing, isn't it? So
Yeah.
the progress and the forward movement with all of this is quite fascinating and exciting and hopeful as well. The Speakers Bureau. Tell us a little bit about that. People might not realize that even exists.
Are you talking about transplant speakers?
Yeah, yeah.
It's okay. It's not a bureau. That was Transplant Speakers International, was an organization that I belong to. We're defunct now, but we were around for about, I don't know, 17 years.
Is there anything like that out there now that would
not like we were, that I'm aware of? What we did was we came up with this idea that the OPOs would bring in their volunteers of donors and recipients, families and recipients, recipient families and the donors, and put them together in a classroom so that they could go out as a team. You'd pair them up. Thank you, Jennifer.
She wanted to know if you ever talked to any staff at the Cleveland Clinic down in Ohio.
I've been in Ohio a bunch of times with transplant speakers. I don't remember if I was at Cleveland Clinic. I was at the OPO, so I wasn't at Cleveland Clinic. I was at the OPO, Organ Procurement Organization. But we came up with the idea that you went out as teams, one donor and one recipient, right? Obviously, the donor family, unless it was a kidney donor, and you went out and you talked to people, and we had one team right after we trained them. They spoke to 1,000 people. So, I mean, that was really wonderful for spreading the word. And then we came up with the whole thing about grateful guilt. And we also had another thing called sorrowful joy, which is for the donor families. It's like, remember the Long Island Railroad Massacre?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, the last person to die from that, Amy Cicero, she became a donor, and her parents were one of the founders. And they would talk about how, they'd be with their friends and everybody would, like, the elephant in the room was Amy, and they wouldn't talk. And it was like Amy died a second time because they wouldn't talk about her. So that workshop was to help people understand how to deal with that part of it. And the workshop on guilt was about confronting the fact that you have guilt. And letting the LPOs know that they shouldn't just say, "Oh, that's tough," and now they understand, and they understand that guilt is a real problem until it's addressed, and once it's addressed, it goes away a little bit.
How has your life changed in being able to address it?
Well, I told you in the beginning, it was debilitating. It was literally debilitating. Yeah. I mean, my wife and I, for Lawrence, my first donor. And we still do it with David, but if we're having a holiday meal, we set a place. Now we have to set two places,
right?
But right. I mean, because if it wasn't for Lawrence, I mean, even though that heart ultimately rejected because of rejection, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. So we honor the donor all the time in my house. All the time is honored.
Now, are you able to be a donor of anything yourself?
Yeah. They could take, Columbia did this about 10 years ago. They actually took a heart that had been donated and gave it to another person. So that heart had been in 3 bodies.
Now, how do they determine that? What is it? A youthful young heart originally?
If the heart's good, it's good. That's all. Good. And they said, and I could just imagine that poor heart going, now where am I? But where am I now? But,
now you're in Hartford.
Yeah, right. But and if the heart's good, if the lungs are good, they'll use them. I don't know how often they've done that, but I know they did it that one time. But I'm a donor.
Yeah.
I mean, my kidneys are fine. They can't take my lungs. My lungs got damaged before the first transplant. But my skin is good, maybe a little crinkly. That may give them extra skin. Maybe
they should take that old Dr. Pepper commercial. I'm a pepper, you're a pepper, be a pepper too. And I'm a donor, you're a donor, be a pepper. Sort of, you're in the creative side of things. Come up with
I like that. That was pretty good.
That was pretty good. You're a donor, be a donor too. I can hear it now.
That would be awesome. I mean,
bring in the jingle singers and start the orchestra.
To everybody, don't second guess whether or not you can be a donor. Just be a donor. And if you're not going to be a donor, you're not going to be one. Only less than 1% of people become donors. So you have to die a specific way. You have to be in specific circumstances for them to preserve the organs. There's all sorts of stuff that makes it most likely that even if you're a donor, I like what she says.
Yeah, she goes, Jim, can we have Stephen back? I love him. All due respect to his wife. And Austin Field said this is a
She's watching you, Jennifer. She's watching you.
She's watching. Rose is watching, Jennifer. This is a wonderful conversation from Austin Field. He's learning a lot from this. And Kathleen in New York says, I have to check out your book as well. Where can they find the book?
On all the e-places, especially Amazon. I think I had started to say, but I didn't finish it. For some reason, I got myself off track. I've only gotten I only have 5-star reviews on this. All my reviews are 5 stars.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and but it's not just a dry book. I mean, it's funny. It's sometimes and it's a very human book. But you could get it at Amazon. You could get it at Barnes and Noble. You could get it at all the ebook stores. And now, the audio book will be on Audible whenever Audible decides they're going to do it. But
and that'll be you, right? Your voice.
Yes, it's my voice. Yeah, I did it right here. Yeah. And then it's in Nook. It's in Play Store. Mm-hmm. It's in I can't even remember the names of these, but all the other places that sell audio books have it, except for Audible, which is amazing to me. But they think it's going to be out in a couple of weeks.
That's wonderful. Congratulations with this. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing. And, like I said, you could have easily dealt with all of this in a very private way. Because, in certain aspects, you are a public figure and have worked, in a public forum, as I do as well. And you could have easily said, no, this is something that is only within my family, and we're only going to deal with it within the family. But you had this real desire and understanding of the human condition to want to share and inspire and comfort others in the way that you do through levity, which I'm very big about, as you can tell, levity and real stories and honest conversations, authenticity that go a lot further than sometimes just trying to mask it or sometimes it is good to sugarcoat a little bit when that is appropriate, but a lot of times meeting it head on and dealing with it and understanding it and appreciating it gets you a lot further than avoidance. Not discuss it. We won't go there, which happens a lot of times. And you're willing to discuss and share and relate and communicate. And it's kudos to you because you're doing, like I said, this is legacy work. This is part of the legacy of who you are when you are no longer here. That book, these tales, this story, and your life will be discussed and talked about and remembered well beyond, the physical presence, which I think is a beautiful thing. And you're doing it for the right reasons. I know, sure, the book and, whatever dollars and revenue come from the book, that's terrific. But that's not why you wrote the book. That's not why the book is there.
No, it's not.
It's coming literally from your heart.
Yeah, and David's and Lawrence's.
Right. Yes. It's a team effort. It's a team effort. That's right. Exactly.
That's why whenever I say the phrase I, from the bottom of all my hearts,
Exactly. When he says he's heart-centric, he is heart-centric. Absolutely. Very amazing, my friend. Could you believe we chatted for 2 hours?
Wow.
It doesn't feel like every guest that comes on the Jim Master Show live, because we do a warm, freestyle, welcoming conversation. Again, like I say, bringing back the lost art of conversation, like the
this was very conversational. It's great.
Talk show style with a modern twist. And what would be one, because I know you got to eat dinner too, what would be one piece of solace that you would like to share with our audience to leave them with right now?
That you should understand that your time on this earth is limited, that you should be grateful in all things, good, the good and the bad, that you should always count your blessings, and that you should just be aware of everything that you can do in any day, no matter how small, that could be of service to somebody else. You do those things and you're going to have a very happy and fulfilling life. And that's what we're meant to be here for. We're meant to be here to learn, to serve, and to be fulfilled, and to learn the lessons that we were sent here to learn. And I think if you do those things and stop chasing the false gods, I mean, look, I like to make money. I live in a nice house, but sometimes things come to you the less you think about those things. And
Yes.
you
The
know,
less you chase them.
the less
Right.
you chase them, the more they show up.
Yes.
So if you just live your life as, when I say count your blessings, I mean count your blessings all the time. And how can you be of service all the time? Make little blessings for other people and then count your blessings. And you will be amazed at how happy you are and how fearless you will be. That's my
Exactly.
advice.
Just like that song, I forget what song it is at Christmas time that you hear, count your blessings, not the sheep.
I don't know that one.
I got, I hear the Ray Conniff singers singing it. It's a beautiful song. And then one of the lines in it is, count your blessings, not the sheep. Really incredible. Kathleen Walker, who is in New York, says, thank you for sharing your story with us. And
My pleasure, Kathleen.
yeah, everybody has had a wonderful time here. Juanita, Stephen, this was a spectacular conversation. Love your story, your mindset, and the amazing advice that you have to offer. Keep well. That's Juanita.
Thank you. You too.
South Africa, where it's already tomorrow, and she's up with us. We have a
Wow.
very loyal audience.
Yeah, you do, man.
This, the Lovities, Jennifer always likes to ask all of our guests that question. Now, I've mentioned this on the show multiple times. We've talked about like our Zen places. And for me, growing up here in the Northeast, I'm on the coast here now, grew up in New York on Long Island, where you're surrounded by water. Other than being with loving family and friends, which would be a number one Zen place, second would be the ocean. And this shot actually is on Long Island, and this is on the South Shore at Robert Moses State Park and Beach.
Oh, of course.
And that's the Atlantic there, of course. And so the ocean for me, I swim it, surf it, boogie board it, sail it, float in it, and walk it. And you have to pull me away, pull me out of the ocean. I just really but I also have a mutual respect. I realize the ocean is in charge, not me. And it will respect me if I respect it. It's greater than me. It fosters life. It brings life. It's constant with its tide. It's beautiful, powerful. So an ocean is a very Zen, and just the water, just the whole thing is very Zen for me. For you, what is a Zen? Is the ocean? She's in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So for Jennifer, the mountains and going into the mountains, very Zen for her. She calls herself a mountain woman. For me, I'm the ocean lad. So how about you? What is a Zen place that you go to that?
Well, for a long time when I was in television, I would go and get in my glider, and 6,000 or 8,000 feet above the ground with the radio turned off, meaning the communications radio, and just soaring with the hawks and everything. That was my Zen place. But now, I told you earlier that my wife and I'm actually going to Tennessee on Wednesday. We're looking to buy a house in the mountains in the Smokies.
Yeah.
So I've had the ocean my whole life.
I'm
almost 68. I'll be 68 next month. And I just think I want to live differently. So we're going to move into the mountains. I want to move into the woods, and I want to see bears and deer on my property. I sail, I do all that stuff. But we find that we don't go to the beach that much anymore. So I think it's just time to try something different.
There was a whole story I did on this just real quickly. I drove alone after a television shoot when I was in Las Vegas. I drove alone through Death Valley.
Oh, wow.
In August, when it was 110 degrees, and it wasn't planned and it wasn't scripted and it wasn't something and it was in a rental car, and it was after a television shoot, and I was waiting for, the flight the next morning. So I didn't go back to the hotel. We're circling this town, Pahrump, Nevada, and I felt like I was being pulled into going into Death Valley by some sort of energy that was pulling me in, because when I was younger, I was, as a kid, never fond of death, never fond of losing family, never fond of the concept that we do disappear. Now I understand it. Now I get it. But it wasn't something that my mother used to watch Medical Center. She used to like Chad Connors. And I remember hearing in my bed, because I think it came on at a time when we were kids not allowed to be up like 10 o'clock at night, and Medical Center used to come up on CBS Channel 2 at 10 o'clock at night. And for some reason, I might be awake in the bed, and I can hear the television, and I can hear the show used to start bump, bump, with a beating heart, bump, bump,
Yes,
bump,
right,
bump,
right.
bump, and then the screech of an ambulance, Medical Center. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm a kid. I don't want to hear that. Now I understand it. So Death Valley called me, and I took the rental car, and I drove alone through it. And it was one of the most incredible experiences, because it wasn't the ocean. It wasn't a city. It wasn't forest or mountains, or had any family or relatives or any opportunity to be the communicator or the communal person that I am. It was something where it was complete raw desert. It was hot. It was risky. It was alone. And I had nobody in that car, because it was something I just happened to do randomly. I was in a rental car. I didn't have all the supplies. I didn't have the water. I didn't have the other person in the car you're supposed to have. I'm in a rental car. Who knows what happens? And something pulled me in there. And it had to be something where I was in an environment that was risky, raw, and there were no creature comforts of any kind, including the ocean. Had to be the polar opposite of the Zen places. And I drove in, and I was telling everybody, the first thing that I felt was, now you'll understand this, because you're talking about grateful guilt. The very first thing that I felt when I drove into Death Valley, I had obviously put Death Valley, like sometimes we put places that we consider monumental, on pedestals. Ooh, we're going to the Grand Canyon. Ooh, we're going to wherever. So you've got this monumental feeling since childhood about a place. So here I am in stripped raw, 110-degree Death Valley in a rental car, driving alone through it on this road, haphazard. Nobody knows I'm doing it. No preparing. We live in you and I, think a lot of things sometimes are scripted and perfected, and there's none of that. And I'm driving in the first 20 minutes, I felt tremendous guilt. And what the guilt was coming from was the fact that I, being the communal person, being the host, being the one who likes to create the joy and the pleasures for everybody else and the blessings, the one who likes to be the executive producer of the environment and the atmosphere, creating it so everybody else gets the joy and the blessing from it. I've taken all of us into Death Valley, and now I get to hear their giggling and their oohs and their ahs, the beauty of it and the rawness of it. And I'm feeding off all of that energy of the people in the car sharing what they're seeing. Oh, look at that. Wow, look at that. But there was none of that to charge me up, because the only one in the car was me. So there was this guilt that I was at this monumental place called Death Valley, with all the risk and the unplanning situation that it was, without the loved ones and friends in the car to share it with me. Because I like to share. I like to be in the movie theater. We're all watching Titanic. That Titanic is sinking, and we're all feeling that same emotion all at the same time, which is incredible. Rare that happens in life, but that's one of those times when we all feel that feeling at the same time as we see the Titanic going down. That's if we have a pulse. If somebody doesn't feel that, then they don't have a pulse. But in this case, driving through Death Valley, the first 20 minutes, I felt tremendous guilt that I wasn't sharing such an incredible, once in a lifetime experience of driving alone through it in 100-degree heat with loved ones and friends, to hear their oohs and ahs, to hear their giggling and all of that, that it was just me in the car, and whatever sense of divine there was, and the energy of the earth and the energy of Mother Nature. I felt three energies, whether it was a divine, whether it was the pull of the earth, the understanding that I'm on a planet that's hanging in a universe came really real. And because it was stripped raw desert, the sense of Mother Nature as well. And I felt the pull of all three energies that sort of pulled me into Death Valley. Probably before, I don't think I would have just haphazardly gone into Death Valley. I would have, made sure the car was checked out and we had water and there was people in the car and everything was set up the way it should be. but something pushed me in and said, you're not going to have that opportunity. You got to go in and you got to experience this. So I felt this tremendous guilt for about 20 minutes. And then I also felt opportunity coming from those three energies saying, okay, Jim, you're feeling tremendous guilt. You want to turn this car back and go back to the hotel in Pahrump, Nevada, and just stay in the hotel until the flight leaves to go back east tomorrow morning. You could do that. Sure. You can. You are driving the car, not us. You can turn this car back, or you can keep going and see what happens. You don't have the family with you. You don't have the friends and loved ones. There's nobody here to bounce the energy off of the brilliance and amazement of what you're seeing and feeling other than yourself. So two choices. We're not going to make it for you. You have to make this choice. So I made the choice to keep driving, and I drove through it. And I'd say within that 20-minute period, that guilt of the fact that I wasn't sharing this tremendous experience with others, feeding off the energy of others, giving this gift of this experience to other people, the guilt started to wear off, and it became liberating. It was like a weight that was being lifted off. Drove all the way through it, and then had to turn the car back when I got to the end and come back because the flight was in the morning, and you have to worry about gas, and there's really no gas stations, and you're in Death Valley, and you have to find your way back. So people will ask, and the story goes longer. People say I should write a book about it and all, but I've shared it a couple of times on this show, abbreviated versions, and I've only told select people actually. They'll ask, well, what'd you get out of that? I mean, first of all, why did you do that? That's crazy. Number two, well, what was the point? What were you left with? And I said, well, I was left with three major things that for me, I think were life-changing in a really good way. First was the understanding that there will be experiences that happen to me as this person that likes to be the facilitator of joy, the facilitator of environment, the facilitator of happy times for everybody, the creator of the feeling, the host, the one who likes to make sure everybody's drinks are filled and the music is emoting a certain feeling from people and just creating it. This was a situation where you couldn't do that. So there's going to be times when there are experiences in your life that are meant just for you. You're the only one in the room right now. There's nobody else here. And this experience is happening right now. And that is for you. So don't lessen it. Don't guess it. Don't shun it. Live it and enjoy it, because that's a gift that was presented to you. And you should enjoy this experience. It's not richer always when other people are there and you can share it with them. It can be just as rich if you're the only one in the room who's witnessing this or feeling this or experiencing that. So that was number one. There will be experiences that will happen where they will just be gifts for you. A friend of mine said that what that was you were totally in touch with self. When you were in that car, you met self, and you had to be reliant on self. You had to, be resilient with self and enjoy it with self. So as I was in touch with self and experiencing that, I understood that because I always like to share. Because there was a point when I was driving in feeling guilty. This ties in beautifully what you're talking about, guilt. I was grateful for the experience, but felt guilty doing it because I wasn't sharing it with the loved ones and friends. So at one point I said, I'll turn the car around, but I decided not to. And I was pushed in further. The second thing was, when I've ever been on a plane and you hear the flight attendant say, and I always felt guilty about this too. Well, if in the event of, decompression or something in the plane, the masks will drop, and you should grab the mask and put it on your face first before helping the person next to you.
Absolutely.
Get the mask, get it on you first. So all my life, up until Death Valley, I used to hate that when they said that. I used to say, wow, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised, help thy fellow man. No. Run and help them first, and then do you. Make sure that if we all did for others, everything would be taken care of. But then I realized through Death Valley in the alone experience that it isn't selfish, greedy, or egotistical to take the mask and get the oxygen on you first, because in order to help other people, you
Exactly.
have to have the oxygen. And still, even to this day, when I'm on an airplane, about 10% of me goes, when I hear them say that, put the mask on yourself first. And then the 90% comes in and says, Jim, remember Death Valley? The people next to you are going to put the mask on themselves first, and you should do it on you. And, and if you put it on you first and that person is having trouble, you can ask them if they want to be helped. Sure. But do you first. So I understand that. And the third thing was that, the earth is going to continue to spin. Like you said earlier, when we're gone, the car will be in the garage and it'll be sold. The clothing will be gifted. The photos will wither. Everything will be gone. And the earth will be enveloped by the sun one day, and everything, including those who, spent a good fortune to be in mausoleums because they didn't want to go in the earth. The
Yep.
mausoleums will disappear too. Everything will be. So with that knowledge, the understanding that the earth will continue to spin on its axis, whether I rescue it all the time and whether I put out everybody's fires. If I have a little bit of a flame over here that I need to tend to that before running to put water on everybody else's flames. And whether I do that or not, the world is going to continue spinning and people will eventually figure it out on their own. So those three things were big, that not everything has to be shared. There are experiences that are gifts just for you. The other thing, again, the oxygen mask has to go on you first, and that the world will continue to spin. And don't feel guilty if you can't say yes all the time. You can't run all the time. You can't stop yourself all the time for everything and everyone else. You need to do you too, while maybe assisting. So I still do those other things, but not to the degree that I used to do them, with, me first in certain areas, that have to, you have to do you first. And that came out of the alone and going through the guilt of not having the people in the car with me. And it had to be raw, stripped earth. It could not be things I'm familiar with, like suburbs or oceans or forests or family and friends around or city skylines or any of that. It had to be the desert, deserted, stripped, where it's only me and the earth and the energies. What I just said probably makes complete sense to you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you can't take care of anybody unless you can take care of yourself. Bottom line, I mean, that's what you're saying, really, right?
Yeah.
I use that analogy about the mask with parents all the time, because if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of them, right? You're going to pass out, and then they're going to pass out. So you put the mask on, and so that they don't, and it's hard for people to understand that, but I don't know, but that's a really good analogy. I like that one too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and about your guilt, you're sharing the story now.
That's the thing, right? Exactly. And I've had so many people
Thank you,
tell me
Kristen.
when I share that story about Death Valley, a number of people say that they're enriched by it, but also at the same time, people have said, you know what? The way you tell the story, I felt like I was in the car. I didn't have to be in the car to get what you're saying. I didn't need to be in the car. You took me on this journey in a way where I feel like I was with you, and that's good enough. That's
Yeah.
plenty. I think that's a cool thing, when I hear that. So now you realize that there are experiences that are really meant for you. So I said to a number of people, experts, friends, everybody, people I've interviewed professionally in television, radio, when we've had conversations. I said, well, why didn't this happen when I was like 19 or when I was 25 or whatever age? And they're like, because number one, you probably weren't ready.
Yep.
Number two,
that would have been my answer.
you weren't ready. You wouldn't have recognized it, or you might have shunned it. You had to live life and experience what you've experienced in order to, when this opportunity came to just haphazardly go into Death Valley. You had to live life and come to a point where this gift was actually presented to you at the entrance of Death Valley, which is just a road and a sign. It's not an amusement park entrance. It's just Death Valley, humid road with those telephone poles going into nothing, like a Western movie or something, that lonely road with all the different weather changes and everything. It was just like that. There was no cotton candy or, buy your ticket and you get to ride on the ride. Nothing like that. That I was presented a gift, but that I had to experience the guilt to allow that guilt to disappear. That kind of guilt of not sharing the experience with others at the moment it was happening has subsided. I used to feel that way about everything that I did, that the family and the friends, especially the family, weren't experiencing it with me. The biggest time I felt that was when I went off to live at college. What are they having for dinner tonight? And I'm not sitting at the table with them. Are they having the meatloaf and mashed potatoes again tonight? But I'm not having that. I'm having a sandwich in my dorm room. You know what I mean? The guilt of not still having that experience. But it's really a gift, because I've been told not everybody gets an opportunity to have a gift like that presented to them. What you've experienced is a gift in a way.
Yeah.
Some people,
absolutely a gift.
It's a true gift.
I mean, my almost dying on my 17th birthday, that was one of the best gifts I've ever been given. I mean, for real. As much as people don't like to believe that, but it's the truth, And
Right.
then the agony I went through in the last transplant, which was really horrific. That was a gift. I had two separate doctors at two separate times tell me that the kind of pain I went through was the kind of pain that prisoners of war go through who are being tortured. And I mean, that's a big thing for a hospital to admit to you.
And that pain comes from after you're coming out of anesthesia and all, or?
Really quick, my second operation was horrific. It took a normal transplant takes about 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours to do the operation. Mine was 15. I had 21 pints of blood. That's a complete blood change and change. I was open for 3 days. They opened me and put the heart in on the 9th, and they closed me on the 11th. And all that time, I'm unconscious. They put me in my room, and they wanted to leave me unconscious because there were so many bleeders. They didn't close me for 3 days. My wife could look into my chest, and they had a tegaderm on me, but my wife could look in my chest. And they, when I did finally wake up, and I was forced to wake up because I was on a ventilator because they had me knocked out. I was unconscious all that time, and I was getting dependent on the ventilator. And that once you become dependent on a ventilator, you can't come off. And so they had to get me off the ventilator before it was too late. So the first day they had me off, they accidentally overdosed me on painkillers. And what painkillers do, this is how they kill you if you're committing suicide, is they suppress your breathing. And so now my breathing was being suppressed again, and they had a choice. Do we put him back on a ventilator where he'll never get off it? Or do we just not give him any pain pills whatsoever after he's been open for 3 days and he just had a heart transplant, and open heart surgery is considered the most painful surgery you can have. So they decided that I couldn't have any kind of painkillers, not even a Tylenol, for 5 days. I never knew you could be in that kind of pain and not die. I mean, it was horrific. My first night there.
Are you sedated? Are you?
No, nothing, because I'm completely, they couldn't give me not even a Tylenol. My wife had gone home because she thought I was okay. She'd stuck with me the whole time. We had an apartment in LA for this. So she had gone home, and my first night with this was the night I probably needed her the most. And I was in so much pain. I made a nurse hear my confession because I didn't think I was going to live. I didn't see how you could live with that kind of pain. And for 5 days, I had that until they could give me painkillers again. And I got through it by using some strategies. This is not in the book. This is because I didn't want to put 2 transplants in the book. But I did 3 things. One, I started to count my blessings. I started to count the blessing that I was in that much pain, that I was in that kind of horrific pain. And I said, this is a gift from God because he wants me to learn this. This is part of my journey. So I took that as a blessing. lessens the load more than you could believe. The second thing I did was I did a brain game on myself, and I said, okay, pain doesn't last forever. Eventually, I'm gonna heal through this. So every minute that passes is a minute closer to when I'm not going to feel pain anymore. So I just kept making this bank in my mind. Okay, it's 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes, it's an hour, it's 2 hours, it's half a day, it's a day. I just kept doing that and thinking I'm that much closer. Every second that passed by, I was that much closer to being out of pain. Then the third thing that I did is, oddly enough, when you come out of these kind of operations with everything they do to you, you're hallucinating. And believe it or not, I had 3 hallucinations that I had the first time, and they continued, only they'd been updated. So there was no
versions.
Yeah, there was no TV in my room, and I was in too much pain to even look at it. But what I did do was I then used the hallucinations to entertain me. So if I found myself to be really in pain, I'd counted my blessings. I'd said, okay, this is a lesson. I did the time thing. So now what I'm going to do is I need to be entertained. I'd call the hallucinations in, and I'd actually actively try to get them started in my head. And that's how I got through those 5 days. But that's really what I want everybody to understand. Everything is about your mind. Everything is about how you think, how you're going to handle it. Now, had I go, oh, woe is me on that, I don't know if I could have gotten through it. But by actively attacking it, by actively taking the lessons, by actively saying, this is a good thing, this is a blessing, by counting my blessings, I'm in a hospital, I'm in a warm bed, all doctors are trying to save me, all that stuff. I have a wife who came here with me, who loves me, God knows why. And, I have all these blessings, and I just want people to understand that you can get through anything in life. If you act this way in your life, if you understand everything that's happening to you is for a reason, and that you're here to serve, and you're here to help others, and you're here to learn, and your life will be lovely.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, my friend. Beautifully said. A fascinating conversation, not scripted, not rehearsed.
This has to be one of the best interviews I've ever been on. I have to tell you, this is great.
Thank you very much. I hear that from so many people, and it really means a great, great deal to me, because I don't even see it as an interview. I see it as 2 people who have been brought together, who are connecting,
yeah, that's what makes
sharing,
it so different.
and conversing. And we just happen to have all these other fabulous people listening in or watching us have this conversation and share about life and living and loss and triumph and fear and all the things that life is all about, and being grateful and counting the blessings as well, which again you so graciously have shared with us and re-emphasized for all of us as well, because sometimes we do forget that, we lose our way. The book is a must, everybody. It's the kind of book that you probably, and I'm sure you've had people say this, you won't just read once. You'll pick it up, you'll read it again, and you'll pick up little things you might have missed the first time, but also it'll be one of those go-to books that, when things seem a little challenging, when you're sort of a little confused or frustrated, you can go back to the book and get some of the wisdom and wit and reassurance that the book provides, because that it's literally coming from somebody who is openly shared all of these experiences for the greater good of us all. Grateful Guilt, Living in the Shadow of My Heart by Stephen G. TAIBBI. Real pleasure to have you here, Steve, and you are welcome back anytime. And you're on the island, so I'm hoping, once we get past all this craziness of now, that we will get together in a good diner on the island or something and break bread and chat, and that would be fantastic. I would really love to meet and get together, and I'm sure we'll not only link up further, but we will find we know so many people. We have so many mutual friends.
I know, including Harlan,
in television,
right?
Yeah,
Are you friends
yeah,
with Harlan, or you just know Harlan?
yeah,
I
absolutely.
love Harlan. I really love
Y-
him.
and you working in the industry, some of the TV stations and Cablevision and PBS and everything, which I've worked with all of them as well. And a great respect, of course, for your brother Mike, who does amazing work, as a journalist on NBC News and everywhere else. And this is really fantastic. And um, John says he needed this big time. Thank you very much. Jim does the best interviews. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Juanita says, "Wowee, Stephen, amazing. Thank
Thank you,
you
Juanita.
so much, Jim and Stephen. So much I learned, and what's really important, sending many blessings to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. And Jennifer calls you a warrior. You're a real warrior. Pain is given to us strong warriors. See how much we can take. Warriors are here to take it, to learn for others. I know she was on a ventilator for 4 days, almost died. Warriors survive.
We do.
Really, yeah. It's
Blessings to you, Jennifer.
blessings to Jennifer, Christine in North Carolina.
Everybody.
This has been so informative and inspirational. Fantastic ideas shared and great advice from your life experiences straight from your heart. So much positivity and levity tonight. Keep well. Thank you very much, Christine. Very giving person. Thank you very much, Kathleen. I really appreciate that as well. Beautifully said. Anne in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing your life this evening. You are very inspiring. And I'm sure you've heard that from a lot of people too, that you are very inspiring. And it's really fascinating. I hope the show. I
appreciate that.
Oh, our pleasure. It says, thank you so much. She's learned so much. Stay safe, Stephen, as well, from Kathleen.
You too.
I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, and that you certainly enjoyed the time with me, Stephen.
I enjoyed this very much. This was great. This is very different. You're right. It was a conversation. That was great. I love the TV stuff we talked about. I liked it all. It was great.
It's like we have known each other for 20 years.
I know. I feel like I should be meeting you at the diner now.
Right. That's it. Can we have some split pea soup for two?
I would really like to stay in touch with you. In some way. I would.
Yeah. Kindred spirits in a lot of ways. I feel that already. Absolutely. Amy, who's a brilliant poet, enlightening conversation. Thank you both. My pleasure, Amy. Stephen, thank you for all the time. 2.5 hours. It didn't feel like that. It was just warm and very connecting. And I wish you continued best of health for you and Rose and your family, all the continued blessings and joys of life. And I hope you'll come back. We'll keep the porch light on for you, and hope we do get together at some point soon. We're able to do that. That would be fantastic.
Okay, that sounds great to me. And thank you, everybody, for all the kind thoughts. I really appreciate it all.
You are very welcome, my friend. You are very welcome. You take care. As I say to all the guests, go stretch those legs now.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Stretch those legs. And how does it feel? I forgot to ask you this. I ask usually the guests in the beginning. There are Tellys, there are Emmys, there are Peabodys, there are Oscars, there are Tonys, there are Grammys, Tellys, Cleos. But then you get a levity on the Jim Master Show live from all the viewers.
That's the best.
That's
the best one so far. I've won a lot of awards in television, but this is nice. This is really much nicer.
The levity from the heart. That's
because these awards are going to follow me. The ones that I won are going to stay behind.
Kathleen says you're a true levity, and you know what? This is beautiful. Jennifer says your wife is a warrior as well. Stephen's
Oh my
wife.
God, you have no idea. You have no idea. She's she's an Amazon, man. She's something else. She really is a really strong, great woman.
You know, who else?
I don't know if I would have survived if it wasn't for my wife.
For your wife. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to have the people around that.
And my dogs.
There. And the dogs. What are the dogs' names?
Remy and Stella.
Oh, I got it. Stella.
Everybody does that.
They all do that.
They're both rescues. One's a 100-pound German Shepherd and one's a 30-pound fat little mutt.
That's beautiful.
They're wonderful animals.
You know who was with us this evening, who felt this conversation, who You know, it was very inspiring as well as funny as ever. We actually had God with us tonight in so many different ways, Stephen, and I have proof of that.
Okay.
Here he is, George Burns.
I love that. The original one. Oh, I
Yeah,
love that
yeah.
movie.
He loves these conversations. He is sort of my sidekick, like my Ed McMahon.
Wait a
Although,
minute. This is even more than you think. When I was in the hospital, when I looked out the window, it was George Burns Boulevard.
oh my God.
For real.
And here I come up with.
And Gracie Allen was the cross street. It's the truth.
I tell you, there is a reason for everything, isn't there? There's a reason.
There's a lot of stuff between us that's
oh
similar.
my God.
My goodness.
Well, this was fantastic. George says goodnight. He had a good time, and you be well, my friend, and you take care. And we will see you again soon sometime. Okay, stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Jim. Okay,
spread the word about our show. We're here just about every night live on YouTube.
Okay, great.
So,
thank you, everybody.
You have a good night. You take care. Bye now.
Bye.
Our wonderful, lovely guest. Definitely a lovely, Stephen G. TAIBBI, brilliant author, of course, producer, director, television professional for many, many years, now retired, devoting his life to really paying it forward in such an extraordinary way. I know you guys have been really, thank you, Deanna, in Ohio. Hope you guys really enjoyed this. I certainly have. And I know you guys have opened up so much about your lives on this episode, a very special, inspiring episode of the Jim Master Show Live. All of them have a touch of inspiration and our famous levity, but tonight was something, I think we learned something together in a very unifying way, didn't we? Really a pleasure. And he very easy to speak to, very affable, very open, very relatable as well. And again, if you would like to get the book, I mean, in order to appreciate the book, you didn't have to have open heart surgery or a transplant. This book can really help you through anytime there's guilt of any kind, grateful guilt, living in the shadow of your heart. And you know, there's other forms of guilt where your heart, being a very heart-centric, heartful person, where sometimes you feel guilty if you don't run to the aid of others all the time, if you are not able to, or, you know, you just feel guilty because you're not able to do the things that you want to do for people. So your heart sort of feels broken, or you have heartache over it. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways you could interpret living in the shadow of your heart, as much the physical heart as, you know, the essences and feelings that the heart gives us. It's a fantastic book. Again, you can find it everywhere. You want him back? He'll be back. He'll be back, like Schwarzenegger. We will have him back. Absolutely. He's probably going to write a sequel. I don't doubt another book is in him at some point. Absolutely. Great stuff, folks. You guys are really amazing. Thanks for all the comments. And again, we thank him. Another shot again, the book there. And there he is, Stephen TAIBBI. Looks cool in that picture, doesn't he? Looks like he's, you know, starring in a movie, like an FBI, CIA movie or something. It's a really cool shot. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. Just want to let you know, a lot of levity tomorrow because we have legendary Hollywood comedian Judy Tenuta with us. You've seen her on Johnny Carson and HBO and everywhere else. She was in the Vagina Monologues and stage and Broadway and television and film. She is a treasure and a legend. She's hilarious. She's starring in a lot of new productions, and she is with us live from Hollywood tomorrow. That's Monday. Then on Tuesday from Days of Our Lives, 10 years on Days of Our Lives, and also a lot of other incredible television and film and all kinds of wonderful productions and stage. He's also an inspiring person as well because he's an acting coach and an acting teacher and has his own school in New England. He is going to be with us on Tuesday. This is Steve Blackwood. Again, you probably know him most from 10 years on the soap opera Days of Our Lives. He's going to be here. Then on Wednesday, yes, St. Patrick's Day, we're going to do a St. Patrick's Day celebration episode with a traditional Irish dinner and music and lots of levity and lovity on St. Patrick's Day. That's Wednesday, March 17th. 8 p.m. will be that time. All our shows are 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific live on the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series on YouTube at Jim Masters TV. Don't forget to share the YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our content, because not only do we have the Jim Masters Show live on that channel, I also do Masters Mantras, quick inspirational visual and verbal videos. I've done those verbally for years on Facebook, and then people wanted me to do videos. So I do videos, and they're on Masters Mantras, the series, on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, as well. So St. Patrick's Day, join us for a fun episode on St. Patrick's Day. That is going to be terrific. We're going to have a terrific time. And then on Thursday, actor Josh Beresford from television and film and more is going to be with us on Thursday. On Friday, we're going to keep that Irish theme going as singer and actor Owen Dara is going to be here live on the Jim Masters Show Live on Friday. He's going to sing. He's going to perform live. He is originally from Cork, Ireland, but he lives in Los Angeles, and he's going to be with us live on Friday. Then, speaking of keeping that Irish theme, look who's with us on Saturday. We're doing 2 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live on Saturday. Wonderful Mairead Nesbitt, dear friend from Celtic Woman, Celtic Lands, Celtic Heart, Rocktopia on Broadway, and so much more. Amazing Irish violinist and fiddler Mairead Nesbitt. You know her probably most from Celtic Woman. She's going to be with us on Saturday, next Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, for a special episode. Again, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, live on the Jim Masters Show Live. Then on Saturday night, from the Waltons and My Three Sons and so many, over 40 films, hundreds of commercials, TV shows, and more, Sissy Wellman. You know her again from the Waltons and again, My Three Sons, and countless TV shows and movies, and she's amazing. She is going to be with us coming up Saturday night. That's a week from yesterday. That's coming up on Saturday the 20th. Cece Wellman is going to be here. And guess who's going to be with us on Sunday? You're not going to believe this. Do you remember former child actor? He starred in all the Jack in the Box TV commercials. He was on an episode of The Odd Couple with Tony Randall and Jack Klugman. He was the kid who ended up being the owner of the apartment building in New York that Felix and Oscar lived in. He's a wonderful performer. He's very involved in global peace and so much more. Rodney Allen Rippey is going to be there. He is when he was in the Jack in the Box commercials, and there he is today. He is going to, former child actor Rodney Allen Rippey is going to be with us on Sunday of next week, live from Los Angeles, which is going to be amazing. And also, I just want to let you know, coming up in, I think, about 2 weeks, Dee Wallace is going to be with us. She was in E.T., the extraterrestrial. She was in The Howling, The Streets of San Francisco, Policewoman, Touched by an Angel, Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury, and so much more. She's a Hollywood legend. She has 3 movies coming out and 2 television shows. She was in The Hills Have Eyes, you name it. Dee Wallace is going to be joining us as well, which is absolutely amazing. As we always say on this show, don't forget to smile, everybody. That's the best contagion out there. And of course, in addition to smiling, don't forget to share the lovity. Again, I just happened to come up with that word accidentally when I said light, love, and levity, and I said love and levity too fast and slipped out levity. You guys call yourselves the Lovities. You call me Mr. Levity. We say this is Levity Hall on the Jim Masters Show Live, and you guys are a part of the Levity Squad. Find your Zen place. I love the ocean. Number one Zen places with loving family and friends, as well as cycling, tennis, music, the ocean, and of course, all the time spent here with all of you. As well, my career in television, radio, multimedia, on camera, on air, behind the scenes, stage, whatever. Love it all. That's when I'm doing that and I'm doing what I love. It is a Zen place for me as well. So do what you love as often as you can. It'll bring you great blessing and great joy, and it doesn't even feel like work. Even though there's a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears, and toil, and hours, and craziness, even like Stephen said, you know, a lot of time and you know, running around and pressure and all the different things. If you love it, That's really what counts. Don't forget the Jim Master Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series is daily, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We always mention that. We also say on the show, don't forget, at the end of every show, we show you this. We got this when we were on a family vacation in Newport, Rhode Island, in a small shop. Don't forget to relax. Don't forget to love one another, and don't forget to breathe from the diaphragm. Very important to do. And don't forget to love yourself. We talked about that a little bit here on the Jim Master Show Live. Don't forget to love yourself, not in a narcissistic, egotistical way. Love yourself in a way where you realize you are of great value. You're here for a reason. You have a purpose. And don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. We all matter. We are all here for a reason. We all really need each other. And we all should be welcome to the table. So relax. Breathe from the diaphragm. And on the Jim Master Show Live, it doesn't matter your income, zip code, gender, political views, religious views, height, weight, eye color, or anything else, or the car you drive. Everybody is welcome here to join in the light, love, levity, and the experiences we have here on the show. Take a look at a couple of quick comments before we leave. Anne says, good night, Jim, Stephen, and Lovities. This has been an awesome evening. Thank you very much, Anne. They're in beautiful Jacksonville. Again, join us tomorrow. The incredible, legendary comedian and actress Judy Tenuta, live from Hollywood tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Kathleen in New York says, thanks, Jim. Have a great night. Lovity hugs. Good night, all, and stay safe. You as well, Kathleen. You be well. Christine Clifton, Jim, tonight's show was fantastic. Such a wonderful conversation. Good night, Jim, and all. Till next time, 3 days until St. Patrick's Day. Absolutely. Gary says, have a good night, Jim, and all lovities. Thank you very much, Gary. John Gibbons says, really great show. Always fantastic. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Kathleen says, can't wait. Great shows and guests. Thank you very much. Even when we have, as rare as it is, no guests, and I just decided to do a host chat lovity episode like we did on Valentine's Day, which is just me and you chatting with each other. Those shows are really incredible. Remember we did 2.5 hours with a food festival show talking about food? That was amazing. You have a great night, Kathleen. Juanita in South Africa. Wow, Jim, that was deep. Loved Stephen, and we'll definitely look for his book. He is such an amazing person, winner of a show. And you still want me to bring him back? Get the book, and you will have an essence of him in your hands all the time. And you will always be grateful. And we will definitely, we'll have him back. Absolutely, we'll have him back. Jim, I'm humbled and thankful for what you do for all of us. Love you, man. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that very much. And good night, everybody, to Juanita. And from Juanita. Gang, we toast you. We thank you very much. You and you and you from all around the world. It's always a pleasure. We have our international audience every day. That's a blessing. Again, this show we started back in April of last year, almost a year ago, and it's become a real blessing for me, your host as well. Again, it's an extension of the work I do professionally in television and radio. I just turned on the lights back in April of last year, started talking. We didn't have guests. I just started talking, and you guys started following. And the rest is history. So we'll keep doing these shows for you with our inspiring conversation, amazing guests, and all the levity and lovity we can muster together. We're all in this together, folks. This show is created by me, but it's for all of us to enjoy. So thanks to Stephen for joining us. Thanks to all of you around the world for being a part of the Jim Master Show live experience tonight. We will see you tomorrow, hopefully 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Just want to show you a couple of things here before we take off. We have some wonderful comments that some of our recent guests have shared with us, which I think is always a beautiful thing. And if you didn't see any of these, we love when our guests take the time to make these short videos. We don't tell them what to say. We don't script anything. They just say it from their heart. Remember when Grammy-winning producer John Prue was on the show, and he had such a wonderful time and inspiring conversation with him? He had these wonderful words he wanted to share with all of us.
Hi, Lovities. It's John Prue, and I just wanted to say thank you to Jim Masters for having me on his program, and had a great time conversing, talking about all kinds of things, music, life, love, and sharing music on the show. It was a real pleasure to be on your show. Jim, thank you so much for having me, and I hope to be back on soon and to do more music and sharing stories and the time flew by. I think we were on the interview for over 2 hours, but it really felt like 15 minutes. So thank you so much, Jim, for having me on your show. Thank you to all the lovelies that tuned in and were commenting and everything. So thanks so much. I'll just do a little send off here of the original song I did on the show called Stuck in a Dream with Me. Careful now, don't play with my heart. I could fall in love, that may not be smart. For then, where would you be? Stuck in a dream with me. Thanks again, Jim, and to all the lovities, and I hope to see you again real soon. Take care. Happy New Year.
Thanks, John. We appreciate that very much. Really, really cool. Great guy. And we'll have him back on the show as well. Do you remember when we had legendary actor Tony Lobianco on the show and his wife, Elise Lobianco? Tony, of course, a veteran of the stage and movies and television and so much more, and a dear friend, actually. Here is Tony and his lovely wife, Elise. They were both guests on our show, and we'll have them back as well. We'll definitely have them back. Here's the words they had for us.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jim, Tony, and Elise Lobianco here. My dog?
We want to say how much we enjoyed being on your show this last year. You interviewed Tony. We were separately. You interviewed Tony for his acting career and me for my Christian ministry.
And we just want to thank you for being such a gracious host and for doing your homework, finding out about us, and doing such a great job. I also want to apologize for this, by the way. COVID, has taken away our freedom and not allowed us to be social or political. And I just grew this. It'll come off.
And I like it.
She likes it. Okay.
We
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you in 2021.
Absolutely. Take care, Jim.
Thank you very much, Tony Lobianco and Elise Lobianco. Remember when we had the wonderful author Marie Colley on the show as well? Well, she was terrific. She'll be back, and she had these words she wanted to share.
Hi, everyone. This is Marie Colley. It's been such an honor to be on the Jim Masters show on YouTube and on Facebook to talk to all of the lovities. Jim's a master of the art of conversation. It's good to have that back. And it's so nice to have everybody be a part of the conversation, that's watching from home during the show. It's great to share the inspiration and the joy and the warmth that we all need right now, especially with everything going on. You should subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's the best. I'm looking forward to being on the show again when my next book is ready. It's so great to talk about writing with him and with everybody else. And Jim is just the best. That's all I can say. I'm looking forward to being back. Thank you, Jim, for everything.
The pleasure was all mine, Marie. You will be back. We welcome you with open arms. Remember when we had incredible dear friend and acclaimed soprano Anna Velova on the show, and she sang live and entertained us. We had wonderful, inspiring conversation along with all the entertainment. She had these words she wanted to share with all of us as well.
Hi, Jim. I wanted to give you a thank you for having me on your show. It's such a great experience, and your show is so unique because it features accomplished professionals and shows the story not just of their lives on the stage, but also behind the scene. This is a very unique experience for the audience because they get to see how the life of a star in the entertainment business is on stage and also behind the scenes. You're also such a professional in your field of journalism, and you guided me with a lot of grace, and time just passed so quickly. And it was a pleasure for me and the audience. So thank you. Again, I am watching your shows now, and I'm a subscriber, and I recommend that for your audience and everyone who watches. Gym Masters TV. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. We really appreciate that. We're going to have you back on the show soon. Remember when our fantastic dear friend, musician and extraordinary guitarist and composer, John LaBarbera, was on with us, and he whipped out all those different kinds of guitars. He played live and we had an epic conversation. He's also a professor at a college in New Jersey, teaches music as well. He's extraordinary and a dear friend. He's going to be back real soon. He had these words he wanted to share as well, and we appreciate these words from all these amazing guests.
Hi, everyone. John LaBarbera here with a quick shout out to celebrate the Gym Masters Show live. And I'd like to share that with all of you. You know, I had such a great time on Jim's show last time. We spoke about music and a lot of my experiences as a musician. And it was just a very rewarding experience. And one of the best things is being able to share that with all of you and to watch the audience's reaction, which every show is very unique. And the way that Jim presents the show to you with audience interaction, I think is very important. And it really is mostly important during this period of time where we need this sense of connection. And Jim's show brings you right into that. You can look forward to it each night, and you never know who's going to appear, and I'm sure it's always a rewarding experience. You know, every time Jim and I would get together, it was always as if we were just, you know, we saw each other every day, and just feeling so comfortable. But now being able to have that experience with Jim's show, I think that he's opened it up to all of you and has built a wonderful family of friends and people from all over. It's so international, and it gives you really a sense of being connected. And that's one of the most important things, is the sense of community. And Jim has a great touch in doing that. So let's celebrate and hope to see you all again very soon on another show. And let's celebrate Gym Masters Show live. See you all again soon, I hope. Ciao.
You sure will, my friend. We'll have lots more music and entertainment and great conversation. Remember when the wonderful actor and dear friend Sean Kanan was on? He was on twice. You remember him, of course, from years on General Hospital, The Young and the Restless. He was in The Karate Kid 3. He's in Studio City. He's a prolific actor and director-producer. He had these words he wanted to share live from California.
Hey everyone, it's Sean Kanan. I just want to tell you, I always love sitting down with my pal Jim Masters, talking with them about life, my career, what's going on. It's such a wonderful experience because it's like sitting down and talking to a friend. I consider him a friend. So tune in, watch the show. I'll be back as a guest, and enjoy the levity.
Thank you, my friend. We appreciate that. We'll have you back too. Kenny James, the wonderful singer and Las Vegas entertainer, was on the show, and we had a blast. His son ended up coming on, playing guitar. The dog Ra popped into the scene. It was really cool, and he wanted to share these words with all of you.
Hey, Jim. Oh, man, I want to tell you that how much I really enjoyed doing your show. You know, I have to admit, it was so much fun. I had like an hour and a half time scheduled to do the interview because I had another appointment after your interview, but it turned out to be so much fun. It almost felt like a family affair. It turned out to be so much fun that we went like 2.5 hours or so. And everyone said you did an incredible job with the interview. It was seamless. We had just a wonderful time, and I feel like I've made a new friend out of it. So I really want to thank you very much for having me on your show. And I thank Terry Woolman for kind of recommending me for your show. And I have become a fan. What is it? A Levity fan? Levity fan? Yeah. But anyways, thank you very much, sir, for having me on your show. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Kenny. We appreciate that, and you'll be back. Remember, we had the wonderful singer and actress Olivia Clark on the show. I met her when I was emceeing at Carnegie Hall, a big Christmas concert, and she was in Buttons with Dick Van Dyke and Angela Lansbury and so many other. She's an actress. She's a brilliant singer. She was on the show live from South Jersey, New Jersey, and a wonderful studio where she was performing. And she's going to be back real soon too. And she's a dear friend. She had these words she wanted to share with all of us.
Hi everyone, my name's Olivia Clark. I'm a singer, songwriter, actress, and dancer. And this past July, I had the wonderful opportunity to appear on the Jim Masters show. It was an amazing experience. I was greeted by overwhelming kindness and levity by Jim and the viewers. I loved getting to share some of my experiences and a bit about who I am with all of you. And I am now so grateful to be a part of this family that Jim has brought together. I look forward to getting back onto the show in the new year. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Olivia. We appreciate that. That was really fantastic. And again, you'll be back too. Remember when we had the wonderful actor Ellis Gage on the show as well? He's terrific. He had these words.
Hi everyone, Ellis Gage here. This past summer, I had the privilege of appearing on the Jim Master Show live, and I had the most incredible time. One of the most amazing things about Jim's show is the diverse array of artists featured from all walks of life. I really loved getting to share my own experience as a performer and really explore with Jim why we do what we do, you know, why artists make art, what it's all about. It helps remind me, and I believe many, just how important it is to keep creating and sharing our work, doing our thing, even through the most challenging of times. I mean, this show is a product of the pandemic, which really proved that there is often room to make art, to teach and learn through the abstract, etc., really in whatever situation. It was something very special, and I hope to be back for more levity, as Jim says, very soon.
Remember when we had the wonderful lyricist and more and arranger, composer, performer Michael Colby with us? He was very entertaining, and even his greeting is entertaining.
Greetings! I'm Michael Colby, sometimes known as the Algonquin Kid. I want to wish a safe and vibrant 2021 to one and all as they sing in Charlotte's Suite, Farewell to Old Lang Syne, Ring in the New Year, and special thanks to Jim Masters for his swilligant shows, past and future.
Thank you very much, Michael. That was very entertaining. Loved it. John L. Peacock, brilliant performer, director, producer, writer, you name it. He was on the show. We had a great conversation with him, and he had these words to share.
Howdy, everyone. John L. Peacock here, actor, writer, director, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank Jim Masters for everything that he does. You know, he's able to bring people together from such a wide array of life experiences and backgrounds, and he's able to interview us in a way that, for me, just made me feel so comfortable, so at home. You know, I met Jim literally a couple of minutes before we went on live for our roughly 2-hour interview, and it was refreshing. I felt like I was talking with an old best friend and we were catching up for the first time in 10 years. That's how at home, that's how comfortable he made me feel so quickly. So thank you, Jim, for all you do. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine, my friend. That's John L. Peacock, and really kind words. I really appreciate him sharing that with all of us. And he was terrific. We had a great time with him, and we will definitely have him back on the Jim Masters Show live. And we've got many more of these. We'll show one more, and then we'll sprinkle them in, you know, as we go along. But of course, we had legendary flautist, an extraordinary musician, and so much more. Sir James Galway on the show. He has sold millions of albums. He also teaches along with his lovely wife, Lady Jean Galway. They're brilliant flautists. He is from Ireland and she originally from New York, from Long Island, actually. And they both have a beautiful home in Switzerland. And Sir James Galway had these wonderful words he wanted to share with all of us.
Hello, Jim. I just want to tell you how much pleasure Jeannie and I got out of appearing on your show when it was possible to do that. I hope in the future we'll be able to do it again and take part in a great show.
Thank you very much, Sir James Galway. I appreciate that. And Jennifer goes, Jim, can you bring back all your guests? We love them all. And we love all of you. We're going to wrap up, gang. Thanks for joining us. We hope you had a great evening with us. Always a good time. 3 hours. Whew. I tell you, these shows definitely should be in the Guinness Book of Records for broadcasts. But have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever time of the day it is you're watching us, either live or watching this in our archives on our YouTube channel. We invite and welcome you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we have. We have so much more in store for you and on coming episodes, and we thank you for having a good time with us. We always have a good time together, don't we? We always have a good time. So you have a wonderful and brilliant rest of your day. We'll be here tomorrow with amazing and hilarious comedian and actress and singer, legendary Judy Tenuta, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Cool stuff. Gang, thanks for being with us. We'll see you soon. You be well. You have a good night. Bye-bye.